Toi. Hello and welcome to episode 60 of Nerds and Words. I'll be your host today, Tim Allen 1337, and with me, my usual cast of misfits, voted Nerds and Words cast member with the most sex appeal in a local poll, Kerr. Welcome back.
Oh, that's not potion. My bad. Yo,
I give it to you. It's fine.
The guy that I wait to speak and then agree with to sound smarter than I am, Moreland TV.
True.
That was me.
And the final boss of the podcast, Potion Shop TV. Welcome back, friend.
People have been asking me why I wear this beanie all the time, and it's just because I live in a really cold area. All right, that's the truth about it.
I want to thank you guys for holding down the fort, and a special shout out to Blonde Bear, actually, for kind of filling my spot as I took a mental health break. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to start off with what I've been doing because I'm pretty proud of myself. After the last podcast that I was on, I had some stuff come up and I was kind of spiraling, and I uninstalled Twitter, Discord, Instagram, unplugged my PC, and bought some books, Audible books, real books. Started cooking my own meals, eating healthier, getting sun every day, taking zinc and vitamins, and I quit drinking for 2 weeks straight. And I didn't play any video games for 10 or 12 days. And then I started playing like Fallout 4 and then some Heroes of the Storm with my friend in Moreland. And I just took a big fucking break on all of it, detoxed. And I feel and look so much better, if I do say so myself. So I appreciate you guys holding down the fort. I know I'm an emotional person, and I am working on reeling that in so it's not so erratic all the time. And I think this was a big step forward to it. So I'm back, and I'm focused, and I'm having a great time with New World, and hopefully that's showing through all the things we've been able to accomplish in the short 30 hours that it's been live. But enough about me. If we talk about you guys here a little bit,
One question.
Be back.
I want to know what was like the most impactful thing, like out of the things you read or like out of the things you changed in your life. What was the most impactful?
Gotta be the zinc, right?
Well, cleaning up my act, right? It's not, the obvious answer is like, well, I stopped drinking for 2 weeks. That wasn't actually as impactful as I thought it would be. It was really just taking away all of my vices that I knew were perpetuating an unhealthy lifestyle, right? So it was taking the video games away. It was taking drinking away. It was not doing any takeout. That forced me to work out in my garage, to enjoy time in the pool, to spend more time with my son, do all these things that I've been neglecting. And then I slowly started coming back and piecing things in so I can, once again, find a good balance. Because I don't want to quit streaming, drinking, or eating takeout, but I just need to do all of that way less often than I was. And so it's hard to pin it down to one specific thing, because the way I operate, and I've gone on huge health kicks that lasted years, and I got down to 8% body fat. And the way that I did that was complete denial of everything for 2 weeks specifically. And that's how long it takes to like break bad habits, and then slowly start bringing other things back in, so you can find a balance. So I read some books on communication skills. I read 2 books actually on it. And man, authors are horrible people. They're so full of themselves. It's so hard to get through some of these books, but I did glean quite a bit out of it. And it was stuff that I knew, but I needed to like remind myself of. And I did learn a couple new things, obviously, too. But again, it's hard to put that into words. My biggest goal through the day was to sweat as much as possible throughout the day, cleaning the house, washing the car, chasing after my son, working out, going for a walk, whatever it was, cooking outside, like on the grill, just sweat. And so it was anywhere from 4 to 7 hours a day for about 10 days. It was nice. I've got a tan.
Glad to hear that you did it. And now you're back on to New World.
Yeah.
what's your go-to like thing to cook now? Because like a lot of the times, like fuck, dude, cooking takes so much time, bro. Depending on what you're making.
So I've got a nice pool by my grill, and I'm in South Florida, so it's fucking gorgeous. But you don't have to be outside, right? Like I cooked inside the other day, or I was inside while I was cooking. I go to Aldi and I pick up meat, chicken thighs, and I marinate them in like a $2 bottle of marinade, right? And then there's pre-marinated pork tenderloin, And then there's some lean cuts of steak that you can get too. I tried to stay away from red meat, but I did a steak night. And then salmon or trout. If you put like a little grill on top of your grill, that cooks up real nicely too. So, I mean, for the pork loin, I looked up a YouTube video on how to properly trim it and cook it. And it was, after I did it the second time, it comes out perfect every time. So I really enjoyed cooking.
Sounds good.
When my ex was pregnant, I cooked every single meal for her for 9 months, and I got pretty proficient at it. And so I lost part of that by just doing takeout. So I was just trying to get back to what I thought made me a good person or an interesting person. So that's what I focused on.
Hell yeah.
I respect.
I had to do it. It was getting bad.
Who's
I
next?
feel like a huge amount of self-improvement is just reminding yourself of lessons you've already learned and forgotten.
Yep.
So that's good, man. I'm happy to hear all that.
Yeah.
guess
Well,
a good-
I want to
Sorry.
thank you guys for putting up with me. I know sometimes I'm not easy, but this New World thing is actually really important to me for my last little bit on this. I was in comms last night at some point, and it was like somebody from Xbox BDO that we met from Arsha, the guys I played Star Wars Galaxies with, somebody from Moreland's community, and just like somebody else's friend that they met in the last beta. Like, we've got this like incredible community that's meshing really well together and working really well together. We're all having a lot of fun doing this. And I didn't, I wanted to clear my head for this, even though I heard you guys last week talk about like, I don't know if the boys are going to show up or if this is going to be important. I wanted to, for anybody who was interested, to make this the best weekend for New World possible and to really set the stage for success for live. So that's what kind of brought me back to all this, is like, I really, really fucking, when everything was taken away, I really enjoyed the community that we had for New World and being a part of that. So let me slowly start getting back in here and making sure that, we've got some content and some fun to be had here. So far, so good, I think, but we can get more into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the Discord aspect was my favorite part. Like, the game was fun for sure, but like the best part was that literally at any time of the day I could just hop in Discord and there'd be like anywhere from 10 to 20 people just like shooting the shit, sometimes even more. Just be a good time, even whether it was 2 a.m. or like 9 a.m.
I'm holding down those
yeah.
late night hours.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Last night was it was 19 hours for me, my first stint of New World.
I woke up and then you guys were still going at it.
Yeah. I wanted to go as long as I could. I was trying to do like a secret quiet 24-hour stream, but I had some stuff I had to do this morning. And if anything I've learned in the past 2 weeks was to not sacrifice everything that I just worked on, the first day I come back. So I made some good decisions.
Yeah.
Not that it's easy to follow up, but how was y'all's week? Who wants to talk about?
I'll
Let's go
take the
for it.
reins.
Oh,
I
gosh.
have been playing lots of
fired
New
up.
World. It's been a blast, actually. Like, I've missed playing the game, and it's such a fun game to restart in. Like, I can't put my finger on what that is. I thought that after playing through the preview and then going really hard into closed beta, that I just wouldn't want to put a lot of time into it. And I'm sitting here like running around gathering iron again, and I'm just having a blast, right? And I think I'd be lying if I said it was just as fun as the closed beta was the first time. But it's really close, and I don't know another game that has been that fun to play as a replayability, right? Like the last game I was like that was maybe like Diablo 3 Greater Rifts or something, So I've been really having a good time with it. Trying to figure out different strats, make a few YouTube videos on the way. Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. Plan on making a lot more YouTube videos, and then deciding what I want to do stream-wise.
It was nice seeing you stream again.
Yep.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I feel like right now I think I'm just gonna stick on New World for a while, because I feel like there's a lot of people who want information on that, and I don't know what videos to make unless I like stream. Because when I stream, like I get like 20 different ideas from chat, and people are like, how do you know, what about this, what about this, what about this, and then I can just turn all those into videos, right? And I find myself when I'm not streaming, right, I feel like I get guilty about it, and then on top of that, that's the financial side of it. And then I don't really have near as good of ideas because it's sort of like a video game developer who doesn't play their game, right? You really don't understand what you need to change about your game. And I think the same thing's true for like a content creator, right? If you're not streaming or like listening to a community, then how are you supposed to know what videos to make? How are you supposed to know like, what kind of content they want to watch, or how are you supposed to get better at your craft? So
Yeah, and when something's new, like you just have that constant influx of like content that you can make. Whereas like BDO, there aren't really like it's not impossible, but it's almost impossible to like consistently make content for YouTube because like most things have already been done, right? So it's like,
mhm.
okay, well, it's like, can I do this video that was already done better? Or it's like if you do spend the time making a good up to date guide, by time it's a year old, it's already, out of date.
Yeah,
So video is
absolutely.
kind of weird in that sense. Whereas I feel like New World at least has some little bit of like variety in terms of the content you can produce in terms of YouTube, right?
Yeah, I still feel like there's like some unsolved mysteries, right? That's the moral in term that I always remember. But it's like I feel like that's what it is, right? It's like, well, where's the best spot for gathering wood? Where's the best spot for getting this material? Like, where do you gather ginger at? Where do you gather nutmeg at? Like, where do you get these different items from? And I think that kind of stuff's fun.
Well, the game's still heavily in development too, so even the developers don't know.
Yeah.
Or it changes week to week, so.
I've went and looked at some of the top guides for New World, and they're all, even stuff that was made after the last beta now is already out of date in this beta.
Mhm.
So I've had the same thing. I've had some ideas for videos to make for this game, and I've just been waiting for this beta because it's like I know everything's going to change, but at least after one more beta, like 2 weeks away from launch, hopefully I can put out some guides and won't be outdated. But yeah, it's crazy how rapidly this game changes, and I think that's going to continue after launch. And that's kind of good and bad for videos because it means that there's going to be new things to solve.
I
Yeah,
was listening.
and like you could get content out there to at least get your foot in the door of the community, right? With like the
Mhm.
YouTube algorithm and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, my bad, Tim.
No, I was saying I was listening to you guys last week, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry, it completely escaped me.
Well, I mean, I think like a big part of it is like with game development and like rapid iterations on a game is like the good thing is like, well, you always have something to make a YouTube video on, but at the same time, if you don't make YouTube videos, then your old YouTube videos kind of fall out of the YouTube algorithm really fast. And I feel like that's kind of good and bad. Like if you want to make a video that's going to last for a couple months or a year or something, like I think that's really going to hurt, right? So it's interesting. It's a little give and take.
Oh yeah, I was saying that. I'm sorry. My thought was you guys were talking about like the development and the speed of the development, and one of the things that I thought and what I've seen just in the day that we've been playing here is I think these guys are developing way better under pressure than when they had that 6 months off. Like just between the the public beta that they had and this public beta, like the amount of development that's gone in, I think is probably as much or more than the 6 months that they had to like continue to work on the game and make those shitty instances and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I think that so just from my time in the industry, what I'm guessing is happening right now is these guys are probably all working 70, 80 hours a week up
Yeah.
until the game launches. They've probably been doing that for a couple months straight. Their physical and mental health is probably deteriorating rapidly. And while they're being productive on one hand, I'm also seeing a lot of like mistakes that I don't feel like they would have made before in terms of like introducing new bugs and shit to the game. So I think that having public tests that people see is making them develop the game better because they're getting a better sense of what actually needs to be worked on.
Sure.
But I don't think being 2 weeks away from launch is making them do better. I feel like there's a lot of like the polished side of the game is suffering as a result of that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I
makes
think there's
sense.
some whip cracking going on, in the back lines. I do feel bad for those guys, but man, they are pumping out fixes. And it's always a whack-a-mole too, right? Like when you having like a perfectly clean release of an MMO is rare. And then most of the time it just takes a week or two for the rose-colored glasses or the cracks to be seen. from that MMO that you thought was so clean that dropped anyway. And so there's always, you fix one thing, something else rears its head up. But I don't think those are like necessarily game breaking. I think I'm theorizing that those types of issues are easier to solve than like the larger issues of the game's direction and development and all that kind of stuff, which I think they have relatively solved, at least for the next couple of months, on what they want.
What would you
Yeah, I mean,
think?
the bug I'm encountering right now is, I'm sure it's very easy to solve. But if
Yeah.
I encounter something like this on launch, it doesn't matter if it gets hot fixed a week later. Like by then the damage has already been done. Like I can't do the main quest right now. That's a pretty massive issue if something like that happens on launch.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's kind of weird, dude.
like I feel like in some regards the playability of the game is worse, but the balance of the game like overall is a little bit better, right? Like an example of this is like the town board is no longer a problem, but what filled the town board as the next best EXP thing is the main storyline and side storylines, which I think are a lot less fun than the town board even, because at least
True.
like the town board, at least you're like doing like crafting, which is the best part of the game a little bit, right? You're doing a little bit of crafting, but when you're doing these side missions, it's just literally like, go here, fix that, go talk to random piece of dirt, like I don't know, like I feel like they still need. I feel like the main quest line should be some optional thing, right? Like I don't think it should be mandatory.
I
Like
see
I
it is
where you're
right
coming
now.
from.
Like,
Yeah.
especially in terms of like MMO or like games in general, I feel like most people are going to decide whether they're going to play a game for the long term or at least in a decent capacity within like the first 2 hours of playing it, something like that, right? So like you run into a bug right off the bat where you can't do the main storyline and progress, you're probably just going to be like, all right, fuck it, dude. Like I'm not going to play this game, right?
Yeah.
I think there's something freeform about the town board that's really fun, and I think the main quest is way too on the rails. I don't even know if it's like a crafting versus non-crafting thing. Like if you had missions in the town board, like right now, all that people who want to grind have is the explorer missions, which are really undertuned, right? So you have these crafting missions, and if you do an hour of crafting missions, it's like quadruple the XP versus if you did an hour of the explorer missions. But if they just gave you more like explore missions or kill missions that you could kind of pick and choose from and go around to the map as you saw fit, then that would be like the town board for grinders, and then they would have the same kind of content crafters have. And I feel like that would just be way more enjoyable for everyone rather than this like half-assed main quest that they've thrown together in the last few months.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you have to do, right? You can still just do the main town boards. You can just do side quests in each town if you'd like. I mean, I think you're experiencing right now that you don't have to do the main story quest to progress, right? So,
Well, that's not
but
really.
I 1 second. I agree with your sentiment where doing the town boards and stuff like that brings you out into the open, into the world. It makes the game feel more open world than theme parky. Even though it was kind of a weird way to level in a game that probably doesn't need levels anyway. I do agree with you that it felt a little more natural, going out, gathering, crafting, one hand was feeding the other type of thing. And you could quest if you really wanted to, for those WoW guys.
Yeah, like I guess the main thing that feels weird about it is the town board originally. We didn't like doing it as the primary source of EXP because it didn't have enough diversity, and so the segment that the developers heard was town board bad, nerf town board, which
Yeah.
in reality it just needed kind of like double the diversity. Like it needed
Just
like
more variety.
yeah, like go tell me to find air motes or soul motes, or like go tell me to craft a bow, or go craft some potions, or like I don't know, like it just needed more diversity that encouraged people to explore the different options of how you play the game. And I don't know, I feel like in its current capacity it's fine, but they need to make it where the EXP doesn't come from the main storyline instead, because that's just not fun.
It wouldn't have been that big of an issue if they'd done a good job with the main storyline, but the sad fact is they just didn't. And like the side quests they're just running simulators for the most part. If they had a quest hub where you went and you grabbed 4 or 5 quests, they all took you roughly to the same area and your objectives overlapped somewhat, and it actually felt streamlined and productive, I don't think it would bother people. But it's just the fact that this main story quest and the side quest, it's so much fucking running and nothing else. Like, I think that's really what's making the crafting feel way better in comparison, or like crafting's the only option.
Yeah. And you just gotta, I feel like what they need to do is they need to sit down and say, what are players enjoying the most about our game? And I don't know what exactly that is. I mean, from my perspective, that's grinding, killing monsters, a little bit of PvP, and life skilling. But I don't know what it is for the majority of players, and they need to figure out what that is, and then make that the best EXP, and then this main storyline should be an optional thing you eventually do for Azoth staff, right? And, like, you eventually just, like, well, time to grind it out, I guess. And you just spend a day doing it, and you're like, okay, whatever.
I mean, I like that concept of not even ever having to do the main story quest, because like I think the Azoth staff is literally optional as long as you're not like antisocial. So I like not even having to bother with doing the main quest line, because during the 2-week beta when we were like going balls deep, I didn't even do the main storyline and get even the level 1 Azoth staff. I was just mooching off of the boys because fuck it, why do it if like only one person in your party has to have it. Now, some of the later dungeons, 3 people have to have it, but I mean, I just kind of whatever.
Yeah, I will say, like, for having a literally bricked main story quest, I'm still enjoying the game a lot. Like, I can do everything else. I can still craft, I can still PvP, I can still level up. So it's not like it's completely ruined the game, but it is kind of a wild fucking bug to encounter 2 weeks away from launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kerr, what have you been up to this week, man? Yeah. Since
Yeah,
you're the odd man out here.
That was a very long tangent, dude. I just been fucking slammed for time with like school and work stuff. I haven't had a lot of time to play mini games. I've been playing a little more BDO. With me, it's kind of weird where it's like the less time I have, free time, IRL, the more BDO I play. Because BDO is like one of the only games where I can literally just turn my brain off and just fucking grind and forget about the day, right? Like, even though there's nothing to really do with the gear that you gain, it's like, it's that like endless shit to do, right? It just fills my hands and gives my mind something else to think about. So other than that, yeah, I haven't really. I kind of skipped out on this New World beta and mostly just been watching like Moral and Potion and you stream it instead of like playing it myself. Just because like the thing that I wanted to see the most was how they did like if they fix siege lag, but I don't think we'll be able to tell that in 4 days, because they also buffed the damage that siege machines do. And the first war wasn't laggy because people were getting one shot by siege machines. So like what I really wanted to see, I don't think we'll be able to accomplish in this beta, because people need to be getting 50 and 60, and having enough defense to not get one shot by cannons and stuff. So I'll just sitting this one out until and try to like get ahead on like work and school and shit, and then kind of go ham on the release like we did during the 2-week beta.
Well, it was bypassing armor was the problem, and that's what they reeled in, and so they buffed the damage, but then they like allowed armor to affect it.
Okay.
So we don't know what that damage is going to look like, and so there's been 46 of us total that have joined the guild at all. 46 of us, and we pulled out 100K and bought a territory last night. It was about 3 a.m. It took about 18 hours, 17, 18 hours, something like that. But we fucking did it, man. And so we've got Weaver's Fin, which probably won't be pushed in the 4 days. But we helped somebody else push a territory yesterday. And we should be able to get quite a few slots for that war just to kind of test it out and see what happens. And
yeah, just to see how it feels, right?
Inadvertently joined the streamer guilds. I tried to avoid that, but they changed the server names at the last second. Like, we had a guild meeting, and then 3 minutes after I dismissed everybody, boom, they changed all the server names. So we were going to go to Xanadu, and they changed all the names. And so I just woke up in the morning, went through all of my Discord to figure out what was happening, who was going where, whatever, and then just picked Eden because memes. And it's Sequisha's here, Jonah Vale's here. There's a whole
Fingerush. There's so many
there's
5-10K Andes playing here, dude.
Yeah. So
yeah, I was watching Moro and I saw like the the one guild had a territory within an hour of the servers going up, and I'm like, fun,
Sequoia,
dude.
yeah.
Just funnel mats.
Man, they didn't make a tier 4 workshop, so I can't make star metal tools. I'm so disappointed.
Is that the
Unsub.
T4 tools or T5?
Tier 4, yeah.
Damn.
I'm literally prepared. I have 100 mining already. I have 100 smelting already. There's a tier 4 smelter already.
Dude, that's what's hesitating me from rushing tools on launch, is because I feel like I'm gonna get stuck where you're at right now. Like
Yep.
you get everything prepped for T4 tools and you literally can't even make them, and you're just like, oh, well, shit.
I think the wise thing is wait until and see if we get one of the good territories that we can boost up real quick. And if we do, then we can control the narrative and we can guarantee we have what we want. And so I think that would make it worth, a little bit better. But if we get a streamer server on accident again, then we have to play it by ear and see what they are doing, because we won't have one of the best ones.
I don't disagree with you, friend.
Be interesting for sure. I like that the social dynamics have a play in the game, though. Like, that's sorely what's missing from a lot of our MMOs right now. And it's not necessarily my most favorite thing in the world when we can't get the territory we want, or we can't do what we want in the game. But it makes a story for the game world, right? Like every server has a story. Like, oh, we put the server that was dead, and all of a sudden we invited this other guild over here. Now we have this rivalry, and then here we have this great story about, like, there's so many people running around in PvP. They're just 24/7 running around in PvP where we're at, and not all servers have that. So I think it's kind of cool that each server has their own unique storyline that plays out.
Is purple still is green still the go-to for launch, or you haven't decided yet?
So I'm in about 3 different Discords to organize people for New World launches. I think we're all just kind of like spiritually tied to. I think it'd feel weird if Aftershock was a different color, but they didn't. I can't tell if they didn't reset the guild names. From like last, I couldn't make the guild name Aftershock, and I can't tell if it's because of like previous beta. Like, we were the first people on the server. We made the first guild, but it wouldn't let me make Aftershock. So I can't tell if it was something like server side that they didn't clean up, or
Maybe they didn't wipe the guild names,
or if they decided that you can't name a guild after like a move, because the hammer has a skill called Aftershock. So we might be in a little bit of trouble on that one. We might have to actually be a huge posse.
We're gonna have to message developers, tell them to rename the skill. They're not allowed to have it.
Well,
On DMCA Amazon about the name.
Yeah, my lawyers
People
are
love
already
our
on
guild name now, dude. We got random people on the server sending us money just because of how good our guild name is.
Type posse.
Well, Bloodbath and Beyond, yeah, sent us money because of that. Yep. It's a good name too.
So my week has been interesting. I went back to jiu-jitsu for the first time since before the pandemic.
They opened it up again?
Nice.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so probably gonna catch COVID from that, but fuck it. It's been a year and a half. Got to do something. So I went back, and my first round of sparring, I almost puked after like 10 minutes because I'm so out of shape. But then after going back a couple times, I can feel everything kind of going back to where it was. So I'm looking forward to that. I feel like physically and mentally, that's going to be something that was very much missing from my life for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Good. I'm happy to hear that, man.
Dude, it's
And then,
really rough to like talk yourself back into getting into that physical like activity and like going to the gym and shit.
Man, I mean, like, I don't know, I get too into the weeds with this, but like, I've wanted to go back for a long time, but everything is just like COVID, this Delta variant, booster shots forever. Like, the world's never going to go back to normal. And I'm like, at some point, I'm just like, okay, well, can't stay in my house for another fucking year and a half. So, got to roll the dice eventually.
Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go on a side tangent about COVID, but probably should not do that.
Yeah.
Give us the potion shop take on COVID, dude. Fuck it.
I'm actually curious where the line is between what is best for the community, right? The average person, and what is like corporate business trying to make more money off more COVID shots and stuff.
Oh boy.
Because I mean, I don't know. Like I mean, how many shots do you need? Like I don't know.
Well, the problem is we can't have an honest discussion about any of this because it's so politicized that as soon as you express any nuanced viewpoint on the pandemic or the vaccine or anything like that, you immediately get lumped into like super far left or super far right, and everyone just writes you off, and it just devolves. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think it's our ability to just talk about it to begin with that's really the fucking beginning issue. And
They literally classify you as either a fucking idiot or an anti-vaxxer. There's no in between. Nobody can ever have like an
you're either a
actual
sheep or an
talk.
anti-vaxxer, like depending on which side you're on.
I
So.
feel like I'm in trouble because I could probably qualify for both of those.
An anti-vax sheep. Oh no.
Anyway,
sorry, I told you it was a side tangent.
Are we
No,
surprised that Posh is an anti-vaxxer though?
I got into a big argument.
Bro,
not an
calling
argument.
okay, I got to get this out. Calling people anti-vax because they're against a new mRNA vaccine that's never existed before makes no goddamn sense. People act like it's the same vaccine we've been using for the measles. It's literally a new technology. Like, just because we're using the same word doesn't mean it's the same thing.
Yeah, those are very different
know.
conversation topics for sure. And everybody should be able to make their personal choice on that, right? Like,
Hey, I
that's
just
the
said
big
it because
thing.
Potion said that he could fit in both categories of anti-vax and sheep. Okay, that's the only reason I said it.
True. Well, I think we all can.
I've been seeing like Twitter has been a lot of like military and religious people are really upset about this mandate that's coming through. And I don't understand. People are like praying for the country because they're forcing large groups of employees to get vaccinated.
I can explain it to you if you really don't understand where the concern's coming from. That's the
Is
thing.
this
Is
the
a lot
mark
of
of the
people.
devil? Is that what they think this is or something?
No, but it is like a weird thing that the government can just force you to put this new shit in your body that hasn't really been that, around for that long and that we don't fully understand. I mean, the number of people that I know that have gotten the vaccine and had side effects and like aren't allowed to talk about it, or the number of people who got the vaccine and then got COVID anyways, like all these things, you don't hear any of it discussed. And if you try to discuss it, you're instantly a pariah and a conspiracy theorist and a Trump supporter. So like, yeah, I can see why people are nervous about that because they feel like they can't be sincere in their dialogue. They can't like voice their concerns. And if you have an issue with something and instead of someone rationally explaining the answer to you, they just say, no, you're not allowed to question that. Of course, you're going to get pushback. Of course, you're going to get paranoia and conspiracy theories and people feeling like there's an authoritarian regime that's forcing something down their throat because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a problem if there was only one vaccine, right? Like there wasn't multiple companies. And I'm saying that because there's at least a couple different options, and it's kind of a global thing too, that vaccinating a population to reach herd immunity so we can kind of put this in the rearview mirror. I respect everybody being suspect of the government, especially a day before the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and a push for all these documents to come out. I really love all that stuff and I love transparency. But at some point, maybe this is doing a lot of damage to, families and businesses in the country. And maybe we just need to kind of bite the bullet. This is the best we can do and put it in the rearview mirror.
Here's the thing, though, Tim, we're not putting it in the rearview mirror. The vaccine, that was the original sales pitch, right? If it was take the vaccine, the pandemic ends, okay, fine. Let's all do it and let's end the pandemic. But that's not what's happening. We're all getting the vaccine. People are getting sick anyways. We still have to wear masks, even if you're vaccinated in certain places. There's a bunch of businesses that are being, shut down again, just like it's 2020 all over again. Like the pandemic isn't ending, even for people who are vaccinated.
Oh, right, I agree. Yeah, but we're only at like 58%, vaccination. Like we're nowhere
but
near.
Even if we get to 100%, we have breakthrough cases. We have Delta variant. The virus is evolving. It's not solving the problem. Like they keep saying, "Oh, just do this and it'll be fine," and then we do that, and then the problem persists, bro. And what's weird is that there are alternative treatments that work better than the vaccine that we're not even allowed to discuss, or else our content will get deleted off the internet. And the only difference between those treatments and the vaccine is that one of them makes certain companies billions of dollars and the other one doesn't.
Well, and I'm with you on that.
That's all very fucking weird to me, bro. That's very fucking weird
well,
to me.
I guess this can go on for a very long time because, like, there's no end to the number of, like, conversations like that, right? I think the main thing is like people should be allowed to make that choice for themselves, right? They should make a choice. Do I want to keep my business open and have a risk of COVID-19? And I just put up you are at risk of COVID-19 if you come to my shop, right? Like, I feel like just educating the population on it, let them make their own choice, is the healthiest thing possible. Because if you're somebody who's a high risk, make your own call. And then like if you're at low risk or you're running a business and you're barely making ends meet, like why can't we keep that business open? Let that person make their own call, because is their government going to know how to make that call, or the person who's running the business? And like, I would bet money that the individual business owner would make a better choice 90% of the time out for the business than the government would. And people for their own health too.
I don't know where this sudden trust for the government and this sudden trust for big pharma came from, especially from people on the left. It's so bizarre to me. It's like, do you guys not remember all the shit the government has done? Do you not remember all the shit the big pharma has done? Hello?
Ever since I learned that like insulin here, that's thousands of dollars, can literally be bought for less than $100 by going to Canada. Like that alone even told me like big pharma be up to some shady stuff. But I don't know, dude.
So I mean, ultimately, like, I don't know where to conclude the conversation other than people have to make up their own mind. And I think the government making the mind for everyone is just not a healthy choice. And I don't think that's the wise choice.
What we've been doing so far has worked so well.
I don't think anything we've done on any front has worked well. So
yeah, I don't think we've had leadership at any point in this pandemic. If we had leaders who were actually giving us solutions that worked and they weren't lying to us the entire time, then yeah, sure, I'll follow the government. But that's not what's been happening at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get a vaccine unless I'm mandated to, and then I'll happily do it. That's my opinion. I want to give it as much time as possible, but I also don't go out. I don't work in a big group of people or anything like that. So, yeah, we could probably get back to video games now. Thanks for that potion.
I told you, it was just I was like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this.
I mean, that's kind of me too. That's kind of my fault too.
No, but dude, I like these like philosophical like discussions.
I mean, where else do you get to talk about it? That's the thing, man.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing is, like, I think one thing to make very, very clear is I don't think we're trying to tell anybody you have to have our opinion, or we're not trying to convince anybody of an opinion, right? It's just discussing it in an open format that's not trying because if you can't talk about it, you can't learn lessons. Like Moreland made some really, really strong points that I haven't heard before. And like Tim made strong points as well. Like, and I think those opinions matter because it helps shape your own opinion on what you should or shouldn't do. And you can make a better educated choice. And I think that's really good to have those type of conversations.
Okay,
so I'm not even firm on a lot of this stuff. Like, I'm very on the fence on a lot of these issues. My problem is that like I can't even form my opinion because I can't even fucking discuss it rationally with most of the people who I want to discuss it with. You know, I can't discuss it online, or else my fucking videos will get taken down.
I've literally never seen anyone have the vaccine conversation without one side shitting on the other person.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like the biggest thing, whether you're right or whether you're wrong or whether you believe on this whatever like side of it. I haven't seen anybody have the conversation without shitting on the other side, honestly.
Well, I mean, that's just ignorant, right? That's petulance. And I refuse to subscribe to that. And I think that's one of the things that's most wrong with our country, quite frankly, is the inability to have intelligent conversation with each other with differing views. So I did some research when stuff like this has always happened. When the great crash of the Great Recession happens, we could look to the 40s for the Great Depression to see how we got out of it, financially. When a pandemic is happening, we've had smallpox and breakouts and stuff like that. In 1905, the government actually mandated everybody in the Northeast, I guess Cambridge, Boston, that area had a smallpox outbreak, and they mandated, obviously more contagious and a higher lethality rate substantially. But the government mandated that everybody in that area get vaccinated for it until they reached a 90% herd immunity. And so, I'm kind of for that. As much as big pharma there was no big pharma back then. There is conspiracies. We are being lied to. Things are very different now. I like that there's action versus just like Trump getting up there with no mask going, what fucking virus? And then like a week later, he's got the fucking virus, you know?
That was legendary.
Well, my problem is there are people in this country that are trying to take action and they're getting stifled by the rest
I hear
of this
you.
narrative. Like these alternative treatments that literally have been proven in other countries. I mean, some of the stuff that we're not allowed to discuss, words we cannot say on these platforms in the United States are the default recommended treatments in places like India and Japan and other countries by the leadership over there. So what's going on with that? That's weird. That's very weird.
Well, we see that with gas pumps too, right? We can only buy petrol at our gas stations or diesel, which is a byproduct of gasoline. But if you go down to Brazil, you can get electricity, you can get propane, you can get there's alcohol or ethanol. I think you can get ethanol. And so that's where you see big interest getting in the way of real solutions. And I completely agree with that, but that's too big of a pill to really swallow with this whole thing, right? It's always surface. That's my problem with debating these things is we're debating surface solutions that never get to the root cause of why the problem exists. It's almost just like distraction, you know. Well, let's not talk about why we can't have like real research and all this kind of stuff. Let's just debate if you get the shot or don't get the shot. Get the shot, don't get the shot. Well, why don't we actually talk about how to cure this or why it happened or, you know, really get to the root of issues? That never happens in any politics, in any debate. It's always surface issues.
And then ultimately that's why it boils down to the individual, right? For me, like I literally stay at home all day. I don't really do anything. Like I make some YouTube videos, maybe stream. Like I don't need a vaccine because like the only person who's going to give me COVID is the drive-through worker, you know? that's basically it. The Taco Bell dude, like he's looking a little weird today. Like maybe I just don't have Taco Bell today, you know?
Richard, how could you give me COVID?
Those are my
friends.
Those are my unique situations, and some people might call that privileged. I don't care, but that's my unique situation. And someone else's situation might be like they have to work all day. They work around hundreds of people. They work at a hospital. They don't want to take the risk. They're high risk maybe, and you make an educated choice based on your life circumstances. That's what I think. Anyway. Back to video games.
So that was my week. Jiu-Jitsu and New World.
Do we maybe we go through kind of our thoughts on New World so far, what we thought it was going to be, and just kind of a quick synopsis of our experience of the past 30 hours or so with the game, and then we can maybe move on to some video notes with Kerr.
Hit it, boys.
So I am very impressed with the patch note list. It's a huge patch note list. I think every concern that I had about the game, they addressed in some minor or major way. The only things I would say were negative is there was a problem in the game where the game was not difficult enough in PvE. And the way they solved this is by increasing time to kill for monsters killing players. And I think the better solution would be to nerf healing so the time to kill is the same in PvE. And the healing is reduced so that if you do take damage, you're punished more harshly. And so that kind of feels weird because there's some bosses now that just straight up one-shot you if you're just a teensy bit under-geared. There's a few strange things like that. And the other thing that disappointed me about it was there's a lot more like stuttering, optimization, issues, like a lot more bugs with Quest. And those are probably two big things that were kind of disappointments for me. I think both of those are probably addressable. I think the stuttering and stuff will get fixed. I think the balance of the game will probably not. But I think the game, at least from my perspective, is overall better than it was in the closed beta. And I still feel like they have a little bit more to go.
Yeah, the PvE difficulty stuff is very, it feels very last minute to me. Like the solution should be just having better mobs, right? But they don't have time to do that. And so their solution is, well, let's give the mobs more health and make them hit harder, which is basically like, it reminds me of playing like Dark Souls on New Game Plus. Like when you play through Dark Souls your first time, everything's super hard. You play it through on New Game Plus where they increase the health and the damage of the bosses or all the monsters, and it's actually like way easier to play it through the second time because you know the fights by then. Like you know what to do. Even just because you're taking more damage and you need to land more hits. Yeah, it's a bit harder. You know, you have to execute a little more cleanly on some of the fights, but for the most part, it's way easier to play the game, you know, with that increased difficulty than it was the first time when you just didn't have the practice.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what it feels like they're trying to do with the difficulty in this game. It's like, oh well, let's just make the mobs let's just give the mobs new game plus stats and that'll make it harder. It's like, I mean, yeah, kind of like it makes it harder in the least interesting way possible.
Right. I feel like the main thing.
Yeah, I personally like a lot of the stuff in the patch notes because like so even though I wasn't gonna play this beta, I definitely made sure for the notes. Like that was the one thing I was waiting the most on. I like the way they went in some things. Like they made leveling from 1 to 30 faster apparently.
Oh, such a good change.
Which is a really good change, kind of coasting you through the early monotonous part of that. I like that they made it so that if you're wearing light armor, you heal 20% more. So they're trying to usher and push life skillers to, or not life skillers, but healers to use cloth armor instead of like spamming heavy and medium. You know, I think that's a really good change because it opens up like this aspect of like, okay, do I want to be a full healer or do I want to commit to taking heavy armor and heal for less per heal, but survive more because you can't heal if you're dead. So it's kind of cool that it adds like a different like dynamic to that. And there's a bunch of other things that they did that I didn't get to test, like we were talking about earlier, like the changing the siege, like the different siege cannons and stuff damage, but letting your armor factor it down, right? Like there's like a formula for that.
Yeah, I want to
Mhm.
see how
So
that
that's-
turns out late game.
So yeah, I like these big like update patch notes that they do and kind of break everything down. It's pretty nice to see the transparency.
I think the healing and the equip load changes are great. Like forcing medium players to not be so tanky, forcing healers to have to make that choice, and kind of nerfing healing a little bit overall in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those changes were really, really good.
One thing
For me, my biggest disappointment is that they haven't done anything with the PvP quests and forts. Like, I don't know, man. I guess they don't have that much time, but I really was just praying as optimistically as I could that they would do something to make the influence bar in this game not be such a drag, because I feel like that's the number one thing that's going to kill this game a few weeks after launch is people just being like, well, you guys want a PvP quest? Not really. Okay, well, you guys want to go play some Dota? Yeah, let's just do that instead. Like, that's the future of this game if they don't fix this fucking influence bar. And I haven't seen them talk about it. I haven't really seen, them indicate that they're going to address that, and that's a big concern for me.
Yeah. Do you feel like time to kill is a little faster now than it was in PvP?
It's we're like level 20, so it's hard to say, but I think it feels good. I think it still feels good. They haven't changed that much, They nerfed the or not really nerfed, but they like fixed some of the extra damage on Great Axe, and they didn't do that much rebalancing beyond that. There's some slight buffs and nerfs to the other weapons, but I think the nerf to healing, like, I think everyone was on board with a healing nerf in this game. I don't think there's anyone who's that upset about it, except for maybe some of the healers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a good idea, and I was like healing everything. Another thing that I like that I guess will be hard for us to test this beta is apparently they made it so that people that are lower level than you won't get such an advantage against you.
Mhm.
I saw that in the patch notes. So obviously we haven't had a chance to test that yet, but that's very good because as we've beat this one like a dead horse so many times. It's like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't get an advantage against someone because you're like 20 levels below them, right?
So it seems like they've gone from one extreme to the other. I think Val's done some preliminary testing on this, and it's like 5 levels difference is now like it's almost impossible to kill somebody if they're 5 levels above you. And if they're 10 levels above you, it is impossible to kill them. So I feel like they went from one extreme to the other, and I'd like to find them some type of middle ground where maybe it's like every 20 levels difference it becomes unkillable or something instead of 5. I feel like that would be a little bit more enjoyable and would encourage people to level up, and people around the area that they're playing in would actually be the same level roughly. Because if you go to First Light, it goes all the way up to level 30. So a level 10 person can fight a level 30 person potentially, and that seems a little strange personally.
The scaling is just a bad solution overall. They should do caps instead. Like, they should just do what Albion does and just make it so that your gear over a certain item power doesn't work in certain areas.
Just cap it at something like really low.
Yeah. I like squish more than cap, but I'm down for either. Like 10% of your extra works. So like if you have a gear level advantage, it's still somewhat noticeable, especially if you can really pile it on. But the cap thing, it is what it is. But
it's a good step in the right direction. To be clear, like I think this is a huge step in the right direction. It's not on the mark yet, but it's they got the right idea, and all the changes they made in that patch are more or less in the correct direction. I feel like. Were there any others that you noticed?
So. I don't think there were any changes in the patch that was like, oh god, here we fucking go with this. Like, I think for the most part, they all really were in the right direction.
Yeah, that's all that I can remember off the top of my head that I was really happy about. Some really good stuff. I can't think of anything that like just jumps out to me other than those, because those were like the biggest ones.
One of the things that I think is interesting, I still need to maybe tidy up, is how to make medium armor different than light and heavy. Because if you're good medium armor, you're not good at DPS and you're not good at tank, and it's sort of like, it's just like you're lukewarm, right? If you compare yourself against a tank, you feel like you're garbage. If you compare yourself against light armor, you feel like you don't do enough DPS and you feel like you're garbage. So I feel like they maybe need to like change medium armor to something else, or I don't know. It doesn't feel very good how it is right now, I don't think.
I so completely disagree with you.
You like it?
Yeah, I actually do. So I think it sets the stage for like a bruiser type. You have a little bit of damage, but you've got a lot of tankiness if you do medium right, where you're like just at that cusp before you're at heavy. And so I run medium, and the dodge is just enough mobility to get out of the way. Like I think it really hits a mark to allow some kind of in between and hybrid builds.
Yeah,
you get a little bit on the stun duration too. You get a little bit. It's a little bit of everything. And
the mediums were nice and like 1v, like really good in 1v1s, in my opinion.
You have a little bit of everything, and I don't feel like I'm lacking in anything when I'm wearing medium. I feel like I'm too squishy and light. I feel like I can't fucking breathe or move when I'm in heavy. But man, that medium just sits right.
That's interesting. Do you like it? Here's another follow-up to that. Do you think the game should be balanced more around open world PvP and like solo fights, or small skirmishes, or around large scale more?
So I think it is balanced around 1v1s and small skirmishes, open world, and then the siege is not the balanced part of the scenario, and I like that. The large scale works, but it's not primed for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get appropriate time to kill is you balance your large scale thing with the amount of people who can participate and special mechanics that are only introduced there, and then you balance it around like 4v4s, 5v5 stuff like that. Where the fuck is this quest thing? I'm losing my mind.
I've heard that some people are currently feeling like melee is a little undertuned with the current time to kill, and it's like a little hard to close the gap.
Bad.
They're like close the gap and then also follow up with enough DPS.
No, you can run two weapons, and so many weapons have gap closers and can facilitate your main weapon, that people who are complaining about that are being petulant and not just looking at the options that they have.
Or they were great axe abusers and are actually dog shit at the game, but they were carried by a broken mechanic.
There you go. That's probably more likely, but both fit.
Sorry, Moreland. I didn't mean you.
I think that talking about time to kill in the context of like people have been playing for a few hours and they're level 19 is a little preemptive, isn't it?
Possibly, but this is what the majority of people are going to feel towards the eventual game, right? So maybe this is more catered towards the early game feeling of the game, and maybe late game it works fine.
I mean, it's the same concept of like in BDO where people will call a class dog shit and they're not even level 56 and gotten all their abilities and awakening yet. Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
people are always gonna like jump the gun on their like first instinct or impulses.
I do feel like it's really important that it feels at least okay PvP wise for early game though.
Yeah, I don't want to get too, with respect, I don't want to get too muddled into that conversation because that's
That's
such a niche little thing. But, I feel like ranged is an interesting concept, right? You've got muskets and bows that, can outskill and outperform and have a high skill ceiling. But man, like fire staff's fine in 1v1s and small skill, it leaves a little bit to be desired. But dude, when you have 5 fire staffs doing the same thing, that is unfucking believable. And so the way that they've kind of weaved all these, you can have all the weapons that can be maxed out. You can have one of each in your inventory, and you can even change how it scales. Like that whole idea, and then complaining that something I played melee and I can't close a gap. Like that's ridiculous. They just need to play the game more.
Hmm.
There's plenty of weapon. Even the way the game is right now, there's plenty of weapons to solve just about every problem you'd have within PvP and PvE and whatever combination. And if you feel like, man, this really isn't doing it, or I don't like this weapon and I'd like another option, then put a third in your inventory and swap it out when you want to or feel the need to.
Yeah, I think people want to be able to have one build that has all the movement, all the range, all the damage, and all the tankiness. And it's like, no.
Grow up.
You have to make a compromise. Yeah.
Like grow the fuck up. So
especially in a game like this, right, where it's like it's really hard to even balance range versus melee anyway, because it's like are you balancing for the guy that's like a FPS god and can constantly get like headshots and constantly hit his shots, or are you balancing for the guy that's just an average Joe and like misses 50% of his shots? So like I think that's just such a gray area for sure.
That's a good point. Because like who's the target audience to balance it for, right? Early game, late game, casual player, hardcore player, like high skill, low skill. I guess it's a strong point, right? And maybe I don't know if, like Moreland said, is 19 hours even a good enough time to even judge that properly?
No, and we haven't had enough time at even level 60 or level 60 fights to even really know how the scaling plays out in the late game. And maybe the alpha, they got, good information on that. The game seems to lend itself towards wanting to be scaled at 60, but I've never even hit 60. So I can't even fucking fathom to speak about that intelligently outside of just second, fifth hand information.
So last beta, I went from dying pretty easily early game with a split 50-50 strength con build to never ever dying almost ever at end game with the exact same 50-50 split. Yeah. So I really think it's preemptive. Once people get better gear and they get better consumables and they get their weapon skills unlocked, I just think the game changes drastically. I think it's a little early for people to be like griping one way or the other. At least get to level 40 and get your 40 faction gear and then start talking about it, because I feel like that's really where it starts to even out. Talking about PvP at level 15 or level 20 or even 25 seems just to miss the point for me. I mean, we're only going to be at these levels for a couple days when the game launches.
Especially when that early, it was mostly like people zerging. One color was zerging anyway, right? It wasn't really a whole lot of like, or at least from the last beta, right? Like like that early, there wasn't a crazy ton of like actual fair fights.
Mm-hmm.
I was suffering so much last night. I actually had to message Dank after the fights. I was like, man, we've got a similar. He does Fire Staff, Great Axe. I do Great Axe, Ice Gauntlet. And I don't see a lot of Great Axe, Ice Gauntlet, but holy fuck, do I love it. I played it last beta, but it doesn't really work before I hit. I'm about to get faction gear, so I assume that'll kind of bring things up a little bit. But I'm like, how do you make it work so well at lower levels? And he gave me a couple of tips on where to put my stats and stuff like that. But this thing comes the fuck alive at level 40. I can't even imagine what it would be at 60. But it's so uniquely my play style. And like I like to be tanky. So if I make some mistakes or I want to go in first or want to be a shot caller, but like I also have range and CC. And so like I tailor built this kit, not because I think it's going to be god tier meta game, whatever. But I'm going to have Great Axe and Great Hammer and probably swap between those two depending on the situation. And then Ice Gauntlet for the control in the large scale DPS and the AoEs. And so now I've got this. This isn't a class. I call it a tanky battle mage, basically, or a bruiser battle mage is what I am. And I probably won't max out DPS, but once I get better, I probably could. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of my favorite parts of the game. And so for people to complain that they haven't figured it out or the game needs to do something is a testament to their own ignorance, in my opinion.
You know what we call that?
Well,
Main character syndrome.
I do think it's a very important topic, and just by proof of that, like we talked about it for like 15 minutes now, just on like our personal opinions on it. So I do think it's a very important topic to like consider where it is, because people are passionate about it, even if it is preemptive at this current time.
So just for my little take on the game so far, you know, again, the community and how much social interaction there is in this game, and excitement and kind of buzz since Amazon is publishing, developing, and owns Twitch and happen to be streamers and content creators and all that kind of stuff. I like all the synergy between that. I like, again, the community that we've put together. I think we've got a good culture that we've built here, surprisingly so, that we've talked about before. But the thing that jumps out at me is all the little things. There's so many more little UI bugs, and the quests aren't quite working right, or the UI thing clips over here, or whatever the case is, or NPCs are getting locked up. FPS issues and refinement on graphics and choppiness, I think, is to be expected with the amount of people they just dumped into the servers. So I'm sure that they were expecting that. They're going to work on that. I don't know if it'll reach live in 2 weeks, but overall, the balance in the feel of the game, the population of it, all that kind of stuff. I know this game's going to be fun, and we talk about this pretty often too. I know this game's going to be fun for 4 to 6 weeks. It's after that first wave of attrition hits, and really the second wave of people that leave this game. That's going to be the interesting part, because I've dedicated myself to this. So I'm going to grudge through that, max out my character, learn as much as I can. So when during that 3 to 6 month drought, we'll call it, when the game comes back and really shines like so many MMOs and even shooters really do after the hype has kind of waned, that's what I'm really looking forward to. And that's why I'm spending so much time on this. So I don't...
Well, how long do you think it's going to take for people for that to fall off a little bit?
6 to 8 weeks.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I also like that you're going into it with at least like a level-headed like take, instead of like, you know, the typical with most new MMOs. Oh my god, it's gonna be the best thing since sliced bread. You're like, no, okay, look, it's gonna be amazing for the first month and a half, 2 months. Then after that, it's gonna be, the ball is gonna be in the developer's court, right? Whether they like give this some kind of longevity. And I think that's a very level-headed way to go into most things.
I'm way too emotional to be able to hide or fake any sort of excitement that I can't believe, right? So I know I pay attention. We have a podcast every single week about games rises and falls and trials and tribulations. So it's impossible for me as a human being that has experienced and seen the things that I have to not understand that this game is overhyped. It will wane, but people will come back. 90% chance, and probably in the same or greater numbers that they originally did. So I know that there's going to be some rough streams. There's going to be some rough months. It's going to be hard managing the guild, but I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it both with my dedicated in time and managing all these people that want to come in and leave, and really identifying who's going to survive the attrition that happens.
When do you think they're going to plan their content around Lost Ark also?
I don't really consider.
Because like that's pretty much the only reason that they delayed Lost Ark, right? So they wouldn't step on their own toes.
They are claiming that the two have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. That's
of course, right? But they're never going to admit that we think we'd make more money if we staggered our game releases. Like, they're never going to come out and say that. But I mean, why else would you delay a game that's been out for half a decade now?
A lot of text to translate. That's what they said.
I do
exactly.
I do feel like there's probably something they want to work on Lost Ark, but probably not justifiably so to delay it. You know, I do think that is there something they can work on? Like, definitely. Is it worth delaying the game? Probably not. And New World is just a convenient excuse to push that back. I don't know.
Yushoki's in my chat, CM Richter from BDO, and he said, because text is definitely hard to translate, smiley face.
It takes a long time.
He was on that
time to
team or
translate.
something. That was like his job there, right? So,
Heaven forbid a multi-billion-dollar company can't translate the text of a half-decade-old game, dude.
I do
I
do wonder if they hired new people for Lost Ark though, because it wasn't like it's like they already had 3 game studios working on their own stuff, and they recently hired new people. So I do wonder if all the people they hired for Lost Ark are just like brand new and like don't know how to work with each other yet and stuff.
we talked about
Lost
this.
Ark is a complete game that's made by a studio that's not related to Amazon. Amazon's just publishing it, so they really only have to localize it. They don't have to change the game. They probably don't even have the means to change the game.
Yeah, but look what Amazon did, like with New World Wise, right? Like they redesigned the game 3 times, and now they've decided on what they want to launch. And I don't know, imagine something similar that could easily happen with how they wanted to handle Lost Ark. Like,
Well,
we're going to make it
developing
very pay to win. We need to change the pay to win in the game because our Western audience isn't going to like that.
I don't think so, dude. Because
maybe
we've been down that
voiceovers.
road with BDO and a lot of other games that are Korean-based games. Like, they've never ever catered to their like us. It's always been based around the Korean games. Even in games like Terra, it's always been catered around what the Koreans think is right, more so than like.
It's usually not like a super Western publisher that's doing that, though. I mean, usually like with BDO, you had KEKW publishing. KEKW's not Amazon. They're not like a company that started in the U.S. that has a lot of Western influence in it.
Yeah.
They set up offices in the US and in Europe eventually, but that's not where they're based out of. So I feel like there is a chance that, Amazon is trying to Westernize the game more than a lot of other publishers would. But at the end of the day, I still don't think that's like them trying to redo the cash shop doesn't mean like that's not a reason why a game that's existed for so many years can't be released in another region.
I will say that if there is ever any kind of company that has the pull and the dick swaying to be able to like do some shit like that, it would probably be Amazon. Because they've financially proven that they can sell shit and make money.
I don't know, man. I think we've all seen enough relationship and how tenuous it can get between publisher and developer to to know that if you're developing a game, I think it's pretty easy to resent dick swing from a publisher that's trying to tell you what to do with your game. So
fair enough.
I really dislike the conversation about, when I talk about New World and the direction it's going and when it's released and all that kind of stuff, I really try to isolate it and not really consider other games releases and stuff like that, because I just don't think it matters. If they're delaying the game a month for strategic reasons, obviously they can't say that. If there's something that needs to be done or whatever, I think Moreland hits the nail on the head when he says that the game's been out for half a decade already. So what are we really waiting on here? What's really going on here? Obviously, it's strategic reasons. And, launching games in third and fourth quarter is always going to be stressful because there's always Call of Duty. There's always all the big companies trying to come out in time for the holiday rush on the retail thing. So I just think that's an obvious and kind of boring conversation to have when you're trying to compare and contrast what's happening with video games, because it's just the business side and it doesn't really matter as far as like the game's development and process and how it comes out.
I mean, in terms of New World's longevity, it's we've kind of said this multiple times, but it's frustrating to me because I feel like there are very easy ways they could add iterative content into the game that will make it fun for more than a month, but they just don't seem to be doing that. The content they're focusing on is all like one and done theme park content, and adding a new dungeon to the game just isn't going to make people stick around for that much longer. Whereas adding repeatable content, the reason that games like Call of Duty do so well and sell 1,000 times more copies than MMOs to begin with is because you just turn the fucking game on. You choose, deathmatch or search and destroy or domination or whatever. You hop in, you get some kills, you win or you lose, and then you do it again. And like the gameplay loop is very simple and straightforward, and there's not a lot of bullshit you have to deal with. Like, they could do that with New World. They could make an MMO where you have iterative content that's not influence questing, and we would want to do that. We would want to hop on for an hour or two, even months and months after the game came out. We would want to hop on and be like, let's go play some fucking New World tonight. You know, let's go take some territories or whatever. But if that loop involves chores, then yeah, the game's dead after a month. Of course, no one wants to do chores in a video game. Like, I don't know why devs haven't figured this out yet.
Okay, 2 points. Number one, let's remember arenas are coming out in this game. Maybe not at launch, but they're
That's
around
not
the
going
corner.
to sell it.
Okay.
I don't care about that. No one cares about that.
Fuck you. Yes, they do. You're wrong. Everybody wants ranked arenas. Everybody wants ranked arenas in every game that has PvP, bar none.
There's a ton of games that have way better PvP than this game has. And
The second point I want to make is I think there's a group of people that Moreland references every time we talk about New World that have the original game's idea in their head, and they got shoved to the side for politics, money, reasons. I think they're probably still there, or they're the people still developing the game, and they're just being good soldiers. And when this game hits that inevitable drop in 6 to 8 weeks, they're going to look to these guys and go, what happened? What do we do? And he's going to go, whip it out and go, what we planned on in the first place, idiot. And they go, okay, well, we can't just change the entire game overnight. He goes, all right, well, let's add this element so there's some emergent, content. And I think that's what's going to happen, is they're going to have to start twitching this over to open world or less from theme park, because the development cost and the cycle of a World of Warcraft and constantly spewing out theme park content in a world and a game that's very obviously not designed for it will become very distasteful to them very quickly.
I think it's a fair point, but I just don't see any evidence of that happening. Like, their solution for more content is another arena, right? Let's do Outpost Rush. Let's do a arena that no one wants to play, that's not emergent content, open world, but people want to enjoy.
It's optimistic and hopeful. I agree with you, but the amount of content they're pumping into this and how much it's not going to matter, they have to know that in 6 to 8 weeks is the true test of an MMO. They have to know that. And so they have to be looking at that. And they're going to go, wow, nobody's doing these dungeons that we spent millions of dollars developing, because they're Amazon and they just throw money at it, right? And then some guy will come up in a meeting and just be like, well, what if we just added like another, what if we did something more with the forts, and we added something else over there that people could just fight over? And I think those cheap ideas with assets that are already in the game, I think that's something this company is going to be able to wrap their arms around personally. Hopefully, I know it's optimistic, but I know we don't have evidence, but the buzz is high. They're throwing tens of millions of dollars at streamers and Amazon and all this stuff to keep the buzz high, but it's going to fall. Yeah, copium.
Lots and lots of copium. Got the whole supply behind them right now.
But I think that's their track to success, and I'm hoping, and I think that there's some homies there that are primed and ready for that conversation.
All right, here's some copium that will actually might happen, is fixing the faction missions so they're actually fun in some way or form. That's something they might actually do in 3 months.
There's plenty to do.
So I think that'd be really good, and that's something that I think could really happen and make them way better.
But all that stuff aside, I really do want to reiterate, every time I play this game, and I heard you guys kind of going, oh, I don't know, the beta is only 4 days, we might not have fun last week. And I was like squirming in my chair when I was listening to you guys, because I think y'all forgot the kind of intangible fun that this game has when you play it. Even though we're doing the same thing that we've done 3 or 4 times over, there is still just something about this game that is intangibly fun.
For me, it's not about the fun factor. It's about that it's 4 days and I can't do what I want to do. It's just another session and everything gets deleted again. Like, I enjoy the game, but I really am passively tired of this playing the game and getting everything wiped, and then maybe we'll get to play it next time if it doesn't get delayed again. And that's the feeling that's really keeping me from fully embracing and enjoying and getting excited for the next run. And at this point, I've played the game 3 times, with open access stuff, right? With preview, closed, and open beta now. And now I'll be playing it the 4th time, and I don't know, it wears on you a little bit. It's not like it's a bad game or I won't enjoy it, but it's it's hard to get excited for the same thing 4 times. It's like opening the same birthday present and you know what's inside every single time. And you're like, well, I appreciate getting, another $20, but if you open that same present over and over and over again, it gets a little less exciting every time,
I get there's a diminishing return. Go ahead, Marlon.
I don't know. The part of the reason I'm having a difficulty being optimistic about this game after the first month is in a weird way, I feel like this beta is actually giving us a preview of what this game's going to feel like a month after launch, because it is having a 4-day beta is actually kind of like being maxed out, in the sense that you don't care about your progression anymore. And the only thing you want to do in the game is the PvP content. And that's where we're going to be 3-4 weeks after launch. We're not going to need to run dungeons anymore. We're probably not going to even need to do much more crafting. Our gear's going to be more or less good. All we're going to want to do is forts and world PvP and the occasional siege, whenever we're able to do that. And what this beta does is it slingshots us into that state where just on the first day, after playing the game for 12 hours yesterday, I was already at the point where it's like, I don't really care that much about leveling or getting gear. I just, the beta's only here for a few days. Let's just go PvP. And the speed with which killing people out in the jungle of First Light got boring was alarming to me. It was not that interesting for very long. You can do it for a couple hours, but after that, you're kind of okay, we're not really fighting over anything. There's no real win condition here, and there's nothing happening as a result of this. It's just a prolonged team deathmatch. Now what?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're forgetting again ranked arenas.
That's not going to be it, man.
Outpost Rush will also be there. There's going to be options. There's going to be options for things to do outside of open. I don't like open world GVGs, except for we had some good formations last night. I think some of these guys that we have playing with us right now are really new. So for me, it was fun to all right, when we won that fight on that rock against J-Lane and the guys there. That was really entertaining. That was rewarding because we actually accomplished something together as a team. But just going out and killing random yellows, stuff like that, I didn't stick around long for that either, because I've done that for 5 years in BDO. So I think they realize that they're going to realize, and they do realize, and that's why they're adding.
That's putting words in their mouth, though, right? I hope that's true, but now
I started talking before I finished. That's why they're adding arenas. That's why they brought in Outpost Rush. That's why they're bringing these PvP elements into this game, and that's why I think they're going to continue doing so, because I think that's what's going to keep this game alive.
But think about this: does Red Battlefield keep BDO alive? No. And in the same way, Outpost Rush and the arena will not keep this game alive. Are you going to go back and be super excited for BDO because they're adding arenas? Nope. And the same thing is true for this game.
Actually, if they put BDO arenas in there, I would probably boot it up.
It's not going to be a saving redemption, because you're going to go in there, you're going to get decent long grabbed, and you're going to be like, all right, I'm done. That's enough of that. Don't want any more of that. It's the same thing Kurari experiences, right? He went into the battle arena with his tamer, and it's just only so much of that you can really do until you're just all right, I just need to turn this off now, and I'll come back tomorrow to do a few more matches. And I don't think
it's pain, dude.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good state for New World to be in, right? After 6 weeks, looking down, and I think it'll be fun along the way, right? I think that's where I think you nailed it on the head when you said it's going to be a little hard holding things together until the next big content update, which will reinvigorate the community. And that's what I'm curious about, because they really haven't said anything about that. And until they really say, we can already kind of see with 3 previews and what they've told us we're getting, we can already kind of tell that the game's going to be hyped for a few weeks, be really, really good. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have fun taking some regions, probably conquer every region one time or whatever the case is. And then, it'll be we'll just be waiting for the next content drop. And when that happens, the guild will flare alive again, and we'll go and reconquer everything. And it'll be, I think, really, really fun. I think that's a realistic expectation, is every couple months we get a lot of fun in New World. And I think that's okay. I'm okay with that.
I think this game would benefit greatly from a real roadmap that they could actually stick to.
I don't like roadmaps, dude.
I don't either.
Roadmaps are good in theory, but like it's hard to find a company that actually sticks to their roadmaps. And when you don't, it negatively impacts you more than the good.
That's why I'm saying if they could stick to one, if they could hit those marks within a reasonable, this month we'll have this releasing. This month, like not dates, hard dates,
Yeah.
but like, this quarter we'll have this month we'll have this, whatever, how big of a range they need to give themselves, that's fine. But knowing what's in the pipeline, if there is anything in the pipeline, I think would do so much for this game.
I think the way Destiny does it is a pretty clear way that it could do it, right? Basically say, hey, these are the next 3 big DLCs we're working on over the next 3 years. When we're done with them, we're done with them. And then you're going to get 4 seasons a year. And have fun. That's the content. We hope you like it. We'll tease you more about it when we get a little closer. And I think this game could do pretty well with that. Maybe similar to like Path XL also, where everybody comes and plays it for a couple weeks. And then they're like, that was a blast. And then they're done and they wait for the next Path XL league that's exciting for them.
And it seems like they're trying to go for more of a theme park style anyway, weirdly enough. So it's like, I guess only thing, like we said, time will tell. Like I know we kind of going around in circles on this one, but
sure.
I mean, we can all agree that at least the first month and a half are going to be very fun. Yeah. And the ball is in their court to decide the longevity after that, right? And then eventually there will be more spikes. It's just, how often do those spikes happen with new content?
I'm just ready for it to happen finally, right? Like I'm just ready for it to finally happen, and I can actually just like enjoy it, experience the time in it, and not get these like little taste. I get these little teasers, and then my appetite for these teasers is just not whetting my appetite anymore the way it was, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, right? Like you put in, 200 hours, and then it's like, oh, it's wiped. Gotta do it all again next time.
I really want the game to launch as well. I'd like, there's not that much that's going to change between now and the launch. I kind of wish the game was just out and that this was just going to persist, despite all the bugs and everything. I just think, I think Tim has a point that the devs must recognize that the end game is stale, and that's why they're adding things like arenas, and that's why they developed the Outpost Rush. So there's probably more of that in the pipeline. It's probably not just new dungeons. So I think there's a little bit of optimism there. I don't think it's all copium, but I just think that's not the only part of this game that's like being underutilized. I think the reason this game is so addicting for the first month is the way they've done the progression. And the progression just ends too quickly. Like it's too easy to get a crafting skill to 200. It's too easy to make your best, 600 gear score pieces. Like there's so much more of a carrot and a stick that they could put in this game that would keep that kind of addictive loop of like, oh, I need to get my logging up so I can get this wood. Now that I have that wood, I can make this tool. And now that I have this tool, I want to go gather this thing. Like the way they've done the crafting and progression in this game is so fucking addictive and good. But then you just finish it, and it's like Valheim, right? Like it's so good and so addicting, but then you just finish it, and you're like, well, okay, I guess like that was awesome, but it's over now. Like
kind of like Skyrim. Kind of like Skyrim in that regard, where it's like, okay, well, I'm doing blacksmithing, and I'm making all this new army. Oh shit, I unlocked Ebony, I unlocked Orcish, I unlocked Daedric, but it's like, well, I'm done. I'm at 100 because I just had to spam steel daggers or iron daggers forever. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
I do think one thing that they could probably benefit from is just taking what they have and then RuneScapify it. Like just take it and just exponentially
RuneScapify it. I like that.
Just make it really go to like oblivion, and it's just make that grind super long, and then I don't know, I'd be fine with that, and give somebody a cool emote if they get level 200 because it took you like 500 hours to do it or something.
I think they'll have the tenacity to figure something out. And I have, maybe it's copium, maybe it's optimism, maybe it's trust, maybe it's unearned. But I think there'll be something that does that. And I think every game has kind of struggled with territory ownership. I think Darkfall probably did it the best out of all the games that I've played that have had like Hamlet or territory ownership. I'm certainly not aware of all of them, But and I think they're aware of that too, right? That's where they brought in those forts for a little emergent content, some open world stuff, and then they started kind of tweaking with what owning a territory means. It has to have value, or that entire node war system basically is going to fall flat on its face. So I think we have enough evidence that they're aware of how flat that content can get, just by the recent additions they've put into the benefits of ownership.
Yeah, curious
I'm
to
kind
see
of
how
on
it
the
develops.
fence, dude, because like I do like both the long, endless grinds, but at the same time, it's also like, like, well, sometimes it's nice to just be able to play something, to be able to like have elements of the game to just get on and play without like having to put in 500 hours for it.
I
I
feel
guess
like
it just
those are
depends on like what they're catering to.
I feel like those are different games though, right? Like an MMO inherently.
Because like we're basically, you guys are basically describing Korean MMOs. That's pretty
Well,
much what you're
I think if you
describing,
look
right?
at the games that people put the most time in, like everybody's tired of World of Warcraft, not because like it's a like inherently the worst experience in the world, because it's so easy now, right? You burn through all the content in like a week or two, and you're done, And what you're supposed to do, and then BDO's doing the same thing. Like it used to take you 6 months to a year to get all of your gear, and now you get it in literally the first like week or two of the season. And so then people are just like, oh, well, I guess I'm done because this pin thing is not fun at all. And if you look at Bless Unleashed, like they made it incredibly hard to grind. I spent 450 hours in that game just because the gear grind was just so crazy on it. And I feel like that's something that goes hand in hand with a good MMO, is a level of grind. Now, you should be able to do all the content. Don't get me wrong. You should be able to do all the content. Like, you can do all the content in Bless in probably, like, 1 week, right? But there's this S-tier grind and this super min-max A-tier grind that you can do, and that's why you get on every night after you've done the in-game content, is you just keep on grinding. That's optional. You can get on with your buds and, play 1 hour a week, or you can get on and play 100 hours in a week, and there's always something to do, and it's not really hurting you if you don't do it or if you do it. And I feel like that's what they need in this game, is they need something that once you've done all the content in the game, they need a huge carrot on the end of a stick to chase, and then you give you a reason to chase it too.
Ranked Arena.
The ranked arena is not it.
Ranked arena is not something you're like progressing on though, other than just practicing, right? Like this game,
ranking.
you know what I think they should do? I think that it should be the housing system that they flesh out. There should be some crazy end game trophies that you can work on, and the bonuses don't even have to be big, right? It could be like 1% of this or 5% of this, but just like something that you can do after you've got some decent gear and after your crafting skills are maxed, other than queue for a ranked arena.
Well, so the execution in this example is obviously a flaw, and the reason that all of us are talking about a different game. But look at how bare bones Black Desert Online was when it released 5 years ago, compared to the insane amount of stuff that's in that game now. And again, the execution was ported terrible. But I think the basis of which this game exists, like we've talked about before, the time to kill, some of the assets that they have that are underutilized, all these opportunities that they have. Hopefully, they have some of the original devs that came up with the idea of this still sitting somewhere in the bullpen. I'm playing this game for its potential, not for what it is right now. And I know I've said that in different ways, but I don't think I've said it that succinctly. Is that we could sit here for hours and pick out how they could iterate on a lot of these kind of base systems that are in this game. But at face value, what this game is right now is an extremely basic, fairly polished, as far as mechanics and how it's fleshed out, MMO. And I think they're going to get that base game to near perfection in their mind, right? And then they're going to start building upon it, like we saw with BDO and a couple other successful games. Even World of Warcraft, vanilla World of Warcraft, hella basic compared to what it is today.
Ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, right? These are different ideas that we'd enjoy. I think for me, I just want to see something that I can grind on that it has a small meaning. Whether that be town boards getting a territory bonus that's way higher, so that I can get like 300 territories in all territories, and then you get something for that, maybe an emote, or Getting life skills up to 200 is crazy difficult. From like 175 to 200 be crazy difficult, and you get an emote for that, or maybe you get a house thing. I don't know. Like, I just want something that isn't mandatory for your average player, but something that I want to grind for, like the infinite potion, or the map, or the compass, or like level 99 in the cape and RuneScape, right? Like, I want
Sounds like you just
something.
wanna play
I want.
BDO, man.
I want something. I want something that doesn't.
BDO's the game for you, brother. Come
Yeah.
on.
I don't want something. I want something that I can go after, but it's not mandatory to go after. Something that is a prestige item, right? And that keeps you in the game, gives you something to play if you're already done.
I'm with you. I
Yeah.
get it. I don't disagree. I'm already planning on maxing out all the weapons and trying new combinations and maxing out all the skills and stuff like that, because I know there's going to be massive lulls and nothing to really grind for. There are some trophies that are interesting and some in-game stuff that, you know.
Have
to take a look at,
have I
but it's not
introduced
much
you to
there.
my friend, the merchant ring potion? If you're looking for something to spend tons of
Ooh.
hours
Listen,
on,
I've spent over 225,000 hours in Black Desert Online. I am completely content. I've achieved everything that I've wanted to do so far, except for getting all of the Great Marty Stones, because those things are impossible.
I actually think this is a very simple formula, and it has to do with this is like just basic Skinner box psychology. It's how much time elapses between each reward sensation that you get from playing the game. That's why every fresh start is fun. That's why the beginning of the game is way more fun than playing it a month or two in. And that's why grinding the merchant ring and BDO is not fun. Because it's like 6 months in between, when you start your objective, when you actually make progress. If you're playing the game and every 5 or 10 minutes you're progressing in some way, even if it's a tiny amount of progression, even if it's a 0.01% increase to your stats, as long as you see that progression, you're getting that constant feedback. That's literally like the psychology of addiction. That's how you keep someone invested in a game. I don't want to grind for a fucking compass and BDO. It's going to take, like I go in there and grind for 300 hours and I haven't gotten a drop. That doesn't feel rewarding. The reason why this game's so addicting is because you start the game and you chop a tree and oh my god, your tree chopping goes up, and then you hit a rock and holy shit, your mining goes up. You're just constantly getting these little cookies for doing everything, and then it all abruptly stops when you max out and you're like, where are my cookies? There's no cookies.
Yeah.
I never claimed to be a complicated man. Just give me my cookies.
Yeah. I ran out.
I think we've kind of
we've
murdered the New World topic.
Yeah.
If you guys wanna,
Yeah, I
to
just
something
listened to
else.
last week's podcast, so I was to the brim, dude. When I'm not here and I listen to you guys, I'm like screaming at you guys in my car or wherever I'm listening to. I'm like, "Ah!"
I don't know why you would do that. I think we've had a really great discussion.
I'd like to talk about RNG failsafes again.
Ah.
Oh god. Hey,
about
listen,
BDO.
Blonde Bear was arguing kind of a similar argument that you had, and he made pretty good progress with more.
Well, it probably sounded pretty good coming from somebody like him, huh?
He made a pretty good argument about
Yeah,
it.
Well, he made a completely different argument.
What was it? I didn't get to that part.
Oh, you missed the best part
Well,
of the
I
podcast.
don't remember it, but it was different.
I think it was just maybe it was
No,
like
he made it. He was saying that his problem with the failsafe is that it took away the uncertainty. You were saying that your problem with the failsafe is that like some people should just get fucked and some people should just get lucky. I don't think those are the same thing at all.
How are they not the same thing?
The world may never know.
Because one of them is uncertainty and one of them is about question mark. If your argument the whole time was that you thought that it was boring because it took away the mystery, then I don't know if you articulated that.
Maybe not, but that was definitely like some people just don't get it, right? Maybe he articulated
But
it
that's
better.
not. What does that have to do with uncertainty? It has to do
But
with
I was
some
saying that-
weird justice thing.
I was saying that chaos was fair, right? Everybody has the exact same chance to get it, but not everybody will. I like that.
About BDO, they did a lot of cool updates this week. One of them was Striker rework. So they did a Striker rework, and it is incredible. Honestly, it looks really good.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I don't want to talk about this at all.
One of the things that's really neat about it is it still has like the clone thing for the Striker Awakening that they reworked. But it's like they made everything happen like twice as fast. And it really comes alive in like when you go and do open world. They have like a little trailer of it when they're grinding Ackman, and he's doing this very similar abilities, right? They all look really similar in like appearance, but they just happen so much faster that and like tied together in a very smooth way that I don't know. I think I'm gonna play
one
it.
of the biggest things that I like the most about these reworks is that they're taking, because like if you look at a lot of the older classes like skill trees, they have all of this bloat and like useless stuff you never use, or stuff that should just be a passive instead of like being its own thing. It should be tied in with something else, and they're kind of turning a lot of flows into passives and things like that, which is I really like because it cleans up the skill tree a lot. I mean, because you look at fucking Tamer's skill tree, and there's all this shit that you just literally never use, and it's like, why isn't this just coupled with this? And so I like that they've been cleaning up the skill trees a lot. It's been long overdue.
100% agree.
One of the biggest things that was interesting about the Striker one is they moved a decent portion of his damage from the clones to the Striker himself. And that's pretty interesting as a player who plays a summon based class. So you could get kind of gimped at late game because the summoning doesn't scale with your gear. So I thought that was a pretty interesting, like maybe foreshadowing of something they might do more with other pet classes.
I almost feel dumb asking this because it like the answer seems so obvious to me, but maybe I'm not the dumb one here. Why do clones have different stats from the player to begin with? Why is there even a distinction? Like the idea of taking damage from the clones, giving them to the player. Why aren't the clones just the player?
Fuck if I don't know, bro.
Is that a dumb question? Am I missing something? Or is this just like asinine game design?
Well, I could get into the lore of the Striker and tell you why, but you don't really care about the lore, right?
Is there a lore reason why your clone has different stats than you do?
So I think
the lore behind Striker Awakening is that they're not actually they're not clones, but they are clones. They're like future iterations of himself. He gets the ability to channel his future self, and those clones are like literally his future self that he's channeling.
Why should they have different stats then?
And why they have different stats, I don't fucking know, dude.
I think
spaghetti code.
I think part of it was originally came from Tamer, right? Tamer had Helyang, and they wanted to make Helyang have its own like scaling and feel good and rewarding to play. And I feel like that was the initial idea of all that. And I think what ended up happening is that, when new classes had a pet type class, they're like, oh, well, let's give them the Helyang code and the Helyang scaling and all this. And we'll make them like separate part. Like Sorceress is Darkness Blade or whatever it is like technically a pet that can aggro, and that was like a part of the game that I think they wanted to include, was like an aggro mechanic to that. Like Moose's projection can aggro mobs, and it's actually part of his combo now, is he actually throws out projection, and then the mobs will actually aggro to the projection and turn their back to the Musa, and the Musa can then get free back attacks. And it's a part of his new combo now, that how people are using projection, because its damage was boosted. And I think that was kind of like the rough idea. I think that they just need to kind of modernize that entire thing and reprogram it from the ground up. And just make it where the player's scaling is the same thing as the pet scaling, right? And they're just equal to each other, and the pets just scale off the player from now on.
Yeah, I just don't like from a design perspective, or even from a lore perspective, I don't understand why the pet has different stats from the player. If the pet had like an inventory window the way your horse does, and you could actually get gear on the pet, like, okay, sure, give the pet their own stats, but the pet is literally just it's just an extension of the character. So why do they have different stats?
Even if it had different stats, or different base stats, but at least scaled with your gear, like why don't summon scale with your base character? And that's like the question, right? Like that is the question. Why don't summon scale with yourself? Now, the Nova clone, like Nova's Shadow Simps, they technically do, because their follow-up skills have like skill percentages on them instead of going by a base like flat rate. But like all of these old summoning classes, I don't know why they started that anyway.
Don't they still like projection has its own scaling, right? But it doesn't. It has like percentages on it, but it scales off the projection's AP and not on the Moose's AP. So I feel like Nova's probably still scales improperly if I was guessing, but I haven't obviously tested that.
Yeah, clones have always been wonky because you had the times where they were like pretty much guaranteed hits, like guaranteed to hit with 100% accuracy, and then they eventually toned that back. And then ever since then, they kind of just been like doing random base damage increases instead of just biting the bullet and coding them to scale with your gear and just fix the problem entirely.
Yeah, it just like, it's again, it's like the duct tape on leaky pipes metaphor, right? It's like instead of just fixing the pipe, you just keep wrapping more duct tape on it, like moving damage from the clone to the striker. Why don't you just make them the same? Just make the clone the same as the striker. They have the same stats. Boom, like problem solved.
Well,
it's so easy.
What's really weird about it is that it does scale with your AP up to 100 AP. So if you have 50 AP, the pets have 50 AP because you have 50 AP. But at 100 it caps out, and then they just don't scale anymore. They're just hard capped at 100, and they're just OP, right? And they just bounce it around like 265 AP or Kudum or something like that. So it's just strange how they decided to do it. I feel like it was just like an idea they had when the game was originally made. They kind of kept going with it for a little bit, and they just, the idea didn't work out. And instead of just saying, yeah, we need to just, take this out of the game and streamline it, they just feel like you said, they just want more duct tape.
I think it could actually be really cool if you like had different pets you could level up, or like even like other games, so you can find pets out in the world and capture them and like level those. I think there's a whole system here that could be super cool for these pet classes, but none of that exists. So what's with all the convoluted systems? Just streamline it.
True.
Yeah, to answer your question, bro, I have no idea why summons don't scale with you, like the gear that you have. I don't. Fuck if I know, bro. That is a really good question.
It seems like they probably should fix that, right? I think I don't think you're the stupid one.
Well, but other than that, they did some pretty interesting stuff. They made it so that with each of his shards, he can dash 3 times, sort of like
he's got infinite dashing,
like Succession can. So it's like.
So you don't have to manage shit.
It's even further pushing this like big mobility creep, which is why I'm really curious to see. Like the Musa Mewa reworks are the only ones that I really care about. I also care about the Kuno one, but those are the only 3 that I'm really curious to see, because after Warrior getting even more mobility, and now Striker, Awakened Striker, and such getting more mobility, I'm really curious as to what they're gonna do with Musa Mewa, and like if they're gonna stay on life support or what. Because I feel like I don't feel like adding even more mobility to the game is a good thing, dude. Well, and maybe I have like this like memory of the like back when we just had pre-awakened kits and everybody wasn't moving around like cracked out bunnies all the time, but like I don't know. I feel like there was much less desync and like shit fucking up back when like
of course there was. Yeah, I mean, the more dashing and iframes you have in the game, the more desync you're gonna have. Those are the things that cause desync. That if players are moving, a few inches versus a few feet, of course there's a bigger likelihood of desync on the longer the dash is, or the more common the dash is, or the longer the iframe is. All those things contribute to desync, and when you have all those things power creeping into every single class at the same time, then the amount of desync the overall game experience is just shoots through the ceiling.
Yeah, and it's like because and Musa Mewa, that used to be like their identity, right? The dashing, the mobility, right? But then they like gutted that, but now they're like giving it to all these other classes and like power creeping it with even more new classes. So that's the reason why I'm really curious to see what they do with the Musa Mewa reworks.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine like with overall like mobility creep and just making the game feel more fun to play and stuff like that. Kind of the main reason for that is because the PvP in the game is kind of garbage because of the aforementioned regions of desync that just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And like, I don't think they have any plan that's going to solve that unless they're going to, reprogram the entire game and buy, NASA servers or something. So I feel like it's kind of fine to embrace this like high mobility thing and just make the game more fun for the not PvP stuff. Because that's really what the reason people play the game is, not for the PvP anymore. They play it for the PvE and the leveling up and the gearing and all that. So I think if they can make
the
that more
leveling
fun,
up is dog shit. I don't think anybody plays the game for the leveling up, because leveling up hasn't mattered for the past 3 or 4 years. I honestly do think there are people that play the game only because of PvP. Because like, I don't know. I will 100% say there's a lot of people that play the game only for PvP, because most of the time I am one of those players. I just kind of hop on, do PvP until I get annoyed by whatever, and then go do something else.
I was one of those players for 4 years.
How many of those players? I don't know. I feel like that ship has kind of sailed. Do you think there's still a lot of those players that are still around, and that more importantly, you think those players are still spending money on the game?
I mean, what is there to do with your gear other than PvP? What in game is there to do?
It's the same shit people do in every other MMO that doesn't have PvP. And they fucking level up for the sake of leveling up. I mean, why do people play Path of Exile? No one PvPs in that game, but still people play it over and over and over again, and they grind for 6,000 hours and even in base league to get their gear min-maxed and perfect so that they can kill Shaper 1 second faster or whatever. Like, I mean, people just like progression.
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying, like, to say that PvP isn't a big draw and appeal for BDO and that there aren't just PvP only players is pretty short-sighted.
I think
combat's one of the only appeals of the game.
I feel like we're talking from a place of very elitism, right? Like we're like, I don't know, veterans. Like most people don't play the game like that. Like they don't even get to the point where you even PvP, right? Because they don't get even level 60.
They get dunked at Polly's Forest, and then they say, "Oh, PvP sucks."
Yeah, I think the majority of people that, especially what they're catering to, is like the season stuff. There are obviously people who care about that, but that's not the majority anymore. The majority of people are people who come in, play for a season, play the new character, quit, come back, play another season character. Like, I'm bored, they quit, they come back. Like, it's just
probably true.
Of course, but that's MMOs in general, though.
Yeah, but they're not going to bounce around the PvP when the vast majority of people aren't doing that. And like, you can even look at the siege scene. Like, the tier 1 guilds are the most popular right now. Like, the siege is basically dead. Like, if you go around and flagging up, like, you don't really find people for that.
Actually, that's not true, though. There's literally more guilds dropping on siege right now than there has been in the past, like, literally 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, is that because it's more popular though? Is it because it's more popular though, or is it because
it's more popular because it's now open to a wider range of people?
So all they did is they made it where more people can sign up for the same activity. So it's not like more people are doing it than before, right?
Nope, that's wrong. You got that
there
backwards.
Are more people doing it because you can literally see with the participation numbers.
How do I say this? It's not. It's sort of like saying, we're going to it's sort of like saying we have so many more players playing our games. That's like what Blizzard said, but they're now including every player multiple times for all their games. They count the same player if they play Hearthstone, and the same player counts again if they play World of Warcraft, and they play StarCraft. You count as 3 players, and so like it's the same thing. Like, they have now enabled tier 1 guilds and tier 2 guilds to sign up for these sieges, and so the number of players are relatively the same, right? Overall, like the whole scene, right? Node Wars from
You're
1
saying people
to
aren't joining the game because Siege was changed? Like, people aren't like, well, Siege is great now, I'm going to start playing BDO because they did that.
It's just the people.
I'm just saying that there are people that play the game just to PvP.
Yeah, imagine like they didn't allow you to PvP in New World until like level 30, and now they changed it to level 1. You would see a huge influx, but does that mean more people are playing the game now? Like, no, like it's just you enabled more people to enjoy that activity. They just lowered the barrier to entry. It's not like it's more popular now than it was. It's just the barrier to entry is lower.
But that's literally the definition of it. Like, if there's more people doing it, then obviously it's become more like popular, because even if it was shit content that nobody wanted to do, then like lowering the barrier to entry wouldn't make more people do it consistently because it's shit.
It's like lowering your Happy Meal price from $1 to 50 cents. More people will buy it, right? But it's not like it's a better meal. It's not like it's not like you might be losing sales on McChickens, right? But it's not like you're getting more customers. It's not like it's not like more people are playing BDO because of that.
You might get more customers.
I'm
if
so
that's
maybe.
cut in half.
confused,
That is
bro.
a terrible analogy.
I don't know
number
how to.
one.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, all right. So the point of changing things in BDO is to make BDO better, so more people play BDO as a whole. But no, there's not more
Potion,
people playing
potion,
BDO
potion.
because it's
All right,
changed.
I gave you enough rope to hang yourself with on this one. I gotta interject. One of the major things that drew people initially to this game was Siege and the system and the 100v100. It's very rare for a game that is ostensibly as polished as BDO to allow that type of large scale content. You know, it comes to Conan or Age of Camelot. I mean, Darkfall, and just a handful of games have really kind of done that. And so for BDO to have this intricate system of nodes and PvE and PvP and Siege was great, and it was wonderful for years and years and years. We saw the rise and fall of Vigors and Lucari and all these great characters.
That's not
and
addressing my
Vistani.
point, though.
Hold on, I'm getting to it. And so then it was neglected for years for Manos, Korea, tensions with publishing, and it just fell to the wayside. Now they've made a couple of small changes that they've needed to make for years, and the people who have always been interested in that game but are either addicted to it for bad reasons, like most of us have been or are, or were, whatever, are able to come back in a meaningful way and find more enjoyment. So it's not necessarily like more people are coming in through the doors necessarily because of this, because the game's been out for so long. So like trying to relate this to customers or McDonald's or whatever doesn't really make sense. It's making the game better, as Moreland puts out, making a better game so people want to play it. They bring their friends in and they stay longer and they have more fun while they play it. That's the point of fixing Siege. It was such a huge thing for so long and it was neglected. And now it's coming back in a major way, and it's having its effect on the PvP scene through T1 guilds. Now T2 guilds are getting big. The Siege scene is huge. All this kind of stuff. All of that's good. There's no bad to be had with any of that. Those are all very good things. And the even better part of it is that they're iterating, making changes to this point system and the death system and all that kind of stuff. They're figuring it out. They're paying attention. All that's good.
Let me put this another way. If there's 2,000 people doing Node Wars and Siege, and then they lower the barrier to Siege, and now there's still 2,000 people doing Node Wars and Siege, but now more of those 2,000 are participating in Siege. Did Siege objectively getting better? I don't see more people playing it.
Yes, because more people are doing it. Therefore, it got more popular.
Yeah.
That because I see it as Node Wars and Siege is one big system. So if there's 2,000 people before, and now there's still 2,000, but now the 2,000 is more visible because they're in an in-game activity rather than in tier 1.
How many sieges did you do?
So he's saying what he's trying to say is that there's not more people PvPing. He's saying there's just people switch from one PvP mode to a second PvP mode, but the overall number of people that are doing PvP has stayed the same. Therefore, as a whole, PvP hasn't gotten better. I think that's what he's trying to argue.
Right.
I mean, that's just like
I don't
saying,
know if that's true or not, though. I don't know if the entire number of people PvPing has stayed the same. I don't know what the evidence for that is.
I mean, like let's say League of Legends. If in League of Legends, let's say if like most people play just regular draft pick, if they do some change that makes ranked more accessible and it doubles or triples the amount of people doing ranked, does that make ranked more popular? Yes, ranked more popular.
Sure.
Even though if most of those people were playing
more
normal
popular,
and the same people,
right? But did that make League more popular?
He's saying. He's saying if they reworked Caitlyn to be a wonderful ADC, or they reworked all ADCs, let's do that. They reworked all ADCs, and the growth of League of Legends did not happen, then the rework of ADCs was a failure. Even though it's drawing more people to want to queue for it or whatever the case is, more people do it within there. If it didn't grow the game, then it was a failure.
Right.
That's the analogy.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's the thing, though. We're not even
ridiculous.
Like looking at it from the aspect that now it's like, oh, as a new player, you know that 2 of the sieges, you can see what their gear caps are. And as a new player, you're like, okay, if I can get to that gear, then I can compete and be on an even ground with other people.
Because
we're not even talking about that.
I'm thinking about long term for BDO, right? It's the same problem with Twitch drops for BDO. They do these Twitch drops. There's a ton of viewers in there. It looks really, really good on paper, but it doesn't actually bring, like, it might bring people back to the game temporarily, but it doesn't have a long term standing because it doesn't fix the game.
You're completely wrong about this. These are the types of changes BDO has needed for years.
Like, these are huge changes, bro.
That not would have only retained players like me and so many others, but would have brought new people in instead of when people ask, when our real life friends ask, "Hey, you play a lot of that BDO game. Should I play that?" The knee jerk reaction is, "Don't do this to yourself." It would have weighed on that. So these are small changes that are good, smart changes that are going to slowly make the game better, day after day, week after week, month after month.
But like for example, I'm doom and gloom on BDO as much as anybody else, but the changes they're making now are fucking amazing. Like they're literally making a system.
I didn't say they're bad. Don't get it wrong. I didn't say once that it was a bad change. But making it seem as if this is saved BDO, right? That this is making BDO more popular. It's just, I don't think that's true. I don't think there's proof.
But no, you're like
I don't think there's
move the goalposts, because the goalpost was, has Siege become more popular? Which is yes. We never said that.
I think Siege is more popular, but I don't look at Siege, because Siege and Node Wars are hand in hand, right? They're hand in hand with each other. I have always looked at them as one full system. I never looked at them separate systems.
Well, you've never done Siege, man.
I have done Siege.
I think it's a bit different. I don't think they're the same system. I mean, they're similar for sure, but there's a special prestige and a special narrative that goes along with Siege that's not really present for Node Wars. Node Wars are kind of like,
that's true,
the warm up and the side content, and they can be fun for sure. And in some cases, I would actually argue that Node Wars for a long time were better than Siege for a variety of reasons. And that's backwards, right? Like the Node Wars should be the thing that's getting you hyped and leading you up to the weekly culmination that is the Saturday Siege. And that's hasn't been the case in a very long time. And I think they're trying to bring that back, and that's a good thing.
Like even Node Wars have more people participating in Node Wars now than there has been in the most recent history.
So my kind of entire viewpoint on this is the goal is to get more people in the ecosystem of Node Wars, right? That way there's a more healthy competition. That way there's more people enjoying it, and you're actually growing something into a better overall system. And I feel like right now that they're focusing on more, that the same people are doing more activities rather than getting more people to enjoy the activity.
Well, by putting gear caps in,
I do think there's done a lot of good things, but I don't
allowing more people to be able to be more meaningful in Siege, which would,
and it's not going to be an overnight thing. Like you have 5 years of neglect. You're not going to fix 5 years of neglect in like a month, right? So it's like they are doing things and moving towards the position of making things more popular. I mean, they're literally finally adding in a system that they should have added forever, that you can run multiple relics at once, so you don't have to spend 10,000 years. I mean, that's something people have been asking forever.
Yeah, and I do think that it is, like, these are very good quality of life changes. I don't think it is the change that will make the game, that will get more people into Node Wars long term. Because
I'll bite. What is that change?
The change that needs to happen for that is they need to fix time to kill and healing, and like this ostensively, like the slow stacking, like the things we've talked about a bazillion times. Those are the things that will continue to prevent the game from being successful long term. The lag and desync will only continue to get worse as they continue speeding up classes over time with the movement creep. And those things, until they are fixed, like until pop-in, like you literally run into invisible buildings in Node Wars and Siege. Those are the type of things that need to be worked on until people, until at least a portion of those get fixed, right? It doesn't matter how they change the Node Wars. Like, it doesn't matter how many people they get, doesn't matter if they give people 3 billion, 5 billion to entice people to do it. It's not going to grow unless they actually start fixing some of the actual core problems. These are quality of life fixes, and they are really good, and people are going to enjoy them a lot. People who are already playing the game.
So this isn't painting the back of the house while the front's on fire. These are the issues. These are not quite to the severity of massive desync ruining PvP top to bottom in most interactions, but it's probably right next door to it. This isn't cosmetic. This isn't like a life This isn't a quality of life thing. These are real huge changes that literally killed a major part of this game that are being completely fixed. Like the bigger issues that we'll call them the S tier issues, to speak your language a little bit, those still exist. But within the people, and you're right, within the people that still can palette BDO in the way that it is, the changes that are made are A+ tier, 100%
I agree with
top to
that,
bottom.
And it's also like making your player, like I think a lot of developers have this bad sentiment as well, where it's like they don't realize that if you make your current players that are actively consistently playing the game happier, then that's going to make more people interested in playing the game. Like if you literally go into every single BDO stream and they're doom and gloom shitting on the game all day, that doesn't make you want to play the game, or it doesn't make you want to watch the people. So like it's no wonder why the BDO like section in Twitch is super small compared to the FF14 section, because it's like if you fix your house first and then you work on bringing other people into the house, it's going to work out better. So I think these changes that they're doing are huge and definitely like required, because like again, literally the majority of BDO streams you watch, it's like the person doesn't even want to be playing the game.
Yeah,
They stream
I'm not arguing that these are bad changes
How
for
does
the
Frosty
game.
do it?
Yeah, I'm not arguing that these are bad changes to the game. I think these are good quality of life changes to the game that are good for the people already playing the game. I want to see changes that are going to make people come to the game and enjoy it, right? That they won't leave, and then the player base will grow. I think right now these changes are really good to maintain the current audience playing longer. I want to see changes that are going to make the game maintain more players that are currently quitting. Right.
I mean, but that they're doing this though. Like
Well, I
even
think by lowering the barrier to entry, particularly into Node Wars, so that someone who's only been playing the game for a month can start doing organized PvP and actually matter. Like the lower that barrier to entry is, the easier it's going to be to retain PvP-minded players. Because the first thing that a PvP-focused player does when they're checking out a game is they hop into a Twitch stream and they say, "Streamer, how long will I have to grind before I can be competitive?" That's the first thing they ask. And if you tell them 3 months or 6 months, they go, If you tell them a year, definitely no, right? But if you tell them 3 weeks, okay, I can, even if I don't give a fuck about PvE and all I want to do is kill players, I can grind for 3 weeks if that's all it takes for me to be, part of the game.
Sure, that's fair.
Well, with BDO, you got to ask them what color their American Express is.
Yeah, that's the other question they ask, right? How much money do I have to spend? How much time do I have to spend? How much money do I have to spend? If you lower the barrier on both of those things, then of course you'll attract more players and you'll retain more players.
I do think there's a second part of this that is that I guess is the main reason why I don't see it being fixed yet.
How many brothers in the Philippines do you have?
This is kind of like my underlying like criteria for Node Wars being fixed. At least from a guild perspective. There's balance perspective and there's guild perspective. From guilds, there needs to be a path from a brand new guild to get started today to being like to working their way up and becoming the next big siege guild. There needs to be a path that people.
My soapbox.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a path that people see on that, right? Like, and it should be paved and really obvious. Like tier 1 should be 25 members. This is an example. Not that doesn't have to be this way, but tier 1s, for example, could be 25. Tier 2s would be 50. Tier 3s would be 75. Tier 4s would be 100. Or you could have like hard gear cap, soft gear cap, and then no gear cap. There's different ways you could accomplish the same thing, but there needs to be a path where people, grow their guild. You start off with no members, so maybe making it where there's something where it doesn't require you to have a full guild for a tier 1. I want to see there be a path to it, right? A path to growing your guild. It should mean something.
It's there. It's there. It's actually really easy to put a BDO guild together, especially if you have any sort of tenure or a small group of friends within the BDO community.
I think that's
played
not
the
fair.
game for a year. Okay, well, I've built a couple guilds even before I started streaming. If you played the game for a year and you have a couple group of friends, like you have the capability, you have that mentality, figuring out where to go and how to get involved in Node Wars is painfully obvious and extremely easy in comparison to many other games.
Yeah, but the thing
and
is, like
even,
how many
even in the sense from like the political like aspect, like Moreland's guild that he was doing T1s with, they were literally willing to help people get into the scene. Like they weren't even actively trying to destroy it. They were literally trying to like willing to help new guilds get equated to the Node War scene.
We even made a Discord in Xbox BDO to help people ally against our guild so we'd have more competition. Like
Yeah, but why? I don't know. I'm kind of with Potion on this one. Like, why do we need to do that if it's so easy to get into? Was it such a big deal that we're like teaching these other guilds, what
okay,
fort
well
they
those
need to
guys
buy
were
and
playing
where they
Call
need
of
to
Duty.
place it?
Those were Call of Duty players. They
I don't
weren't
know.
MMO
Like,
players.
I think it's probably gotten more streamlined than it used to be, but I still don't know if it's that obvious for new players to figure out like what they need for a node wars and how the NXs work and like which fort goes where. Like, I think some of that's been simplified, but I don't know if it's that clear of a path for new people to like hop into PvP. I think most people are relying on someone else who knows how to do it, and they're just hoping they can follow them.
Yeah, you need to play the game a little while before you start your own guild. 100%.
Like
that was the first thing
I feel like you're fairly skilled at that, right? Like as a person, you've enjoyed doing that. That's what you excel at, and you're very skilled at that. And like it shouldn't take someone who is like I put you like an S tier guild builder, right? Like you're great at it. But like there should be people out there who are like a B tier guild, and they should be able to put a guild together and get up to like maybe tier 2s, and they get stuck for whatever reason, X, Y, Z.
That's literally what they do, though.
Yeah,
like that's literally
exactly
the current ecosystem. That's literally how it works.
No, because tier 2s can go place immediately on a siege, so there's no differentiation between being a tier 1 or a siege guild right now, and so like you just feel like you get squashed.
Correct.
Besides, even though you have the same gear, your strategies and composition still matters, though.
Exactly,
like,
which is why there's a huge gap. I'm saying that's why there is a huge gap, because your strategy matters, the number of members you have matters, your gear matters, like the amount of guild points you have matter. Like all those things are barriers to making a new guild be able to have a fair competition, even in tier 1s or tier 2s. And that's where I'm.
This is different from New World.
Why should a guild that's been working on their shot calling and been working together for years, why should they get steamrolled by a person that just made a guild a week ago?
Oh, that's not what I'm saying at all. They should, if you're a guild and you want it well organized, there should be an enticing factor for you to push for higher tiers. Right? There should be some reason why you don't want to be in tier 1s or tier 2s or tier 3s. You want to be claiming tier 4s. And right now, there's no difference between tier 1s and tier 4s. None. As far as a guild goes, there's no purpose. You can just claim whichever one you find the most fun.
That's not true either.
Except for the fact that different guild members, there's literally different caps on the number of people you can bring and things like that.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with like the strategy, right? That has nothing to do with like the amount of guild points you have.
You can allocate different amount of resources to different points in your strategy.
What I'm talking about is like a brand new guild is like a bronze guild in League of Legends, right? It's like a bronze guild. They shouldn't be going up against platinum guilds, and they should have some way where they can avoid the platinum guilds or the gold guilds or the dime. They can't go to tier 1s because who's there? No, they are not the brand new guild. You're going to get absolutely steamrolled. They have allies. They know what's going on. If you go there with your 10 buddies, you're just going to get stomped on every single time.
That's not true.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because they have the team comp for that. They have the knowledge. They have the coordination. They have a full Discord for that already.
Like, of course. So you're wrong on everything you've said for the past 10 minutes or so. Somebody can get 10 people together, show up on a node, and then you see Null, who's been dead for months, roll up on you. But we'll use that example. Coordinated bunch of ex-Siege players. They know what they're doing. And then they get stomped and they go, wow, we got our ass kicked. And then the first thing, as anybody who has half a brain would do, would message somebody at Null and be like, wow, that was really good. Can we avoid you for next node war? We're new and we're just trying to get our feet wet here. Or would you mind helping us out with a couple of things or something like that? Like, building a guild inherently is a social thing. You need somebody who has social skills. It's not white and black. It's not, here's the roadmap to build a guild. You have to interact with other people.
Yeah, but what you just said there is a learned skill, though.
Should it not be? Like, should you not?
Yeah, but you should be going against our people who also don't know that's a learned skill.
What?
I'm with Potion again here.
So you want to play League of Legends where everybody starts out on an equal footing and you don't really have.
I mean, if we're going to use if we're going to use the League of Legends example, you don't have to go into a Discord and make friends to find other bronze players to play against. The game does that for you.
Yeah.
So Potion's saying BDO doesn't do that for you. Like the fact that you have to go out of your way to become part of a community in order to get PvP that's fair, is that not an issue? Like, is that not a developer problem? Like, I don't know why you guys are going so hard on Potion.
I mean, we literally have
I feel like
like
it's completely reasonable.
Name a game
we
that doesn't
literally
have
have
that
season
issue.
servers. We literally have
League of
season servers
Legends.
where everybody on there is new.
I can buy a
There's
League of
literally
Legends
season
account for
servers.
$7. That'll put me as a high platinum player.
Yeah,
into a
but
bronze
you
account.
have to go out of your way to do that, right? You have to go out of your way to be a shit and buy an account, right? Like in Fortnite, they put you against bot accounts, right? In League
We
of
were
Legends,
going
they
out
put
of
you
our
against
way
bot
to be a
accounts.
shit and drop on T1s and null.
Like you have to actually go out of your way to play the game improperly.
Yeah, we were.
Like,
Dude, literally everything, almost in terms of gear aspect, it's pretty much given to you, hands down nowadays. Like, do you literally want everything, like, there to not have to be some kind of effort put into anything?
I didn't say that at all. I didn't say that at all. I said I want tier 4s to be what hardcore people want to go for, right? Tier null, like people who are coordinated. Tier 3s should be less prestigious than tier 4s, right? There should be a reward, a carrot, an emote, something that makes people want to go for tier 4s more than tier 3s if you're a better guild, right? You want to prove your dominance? Take a siege region. You're the best, right? There should be a reason for people to want to do that, a prestige factor, right? There should be like a ranking up system for guilds.
So the problem with that, they tried doing that with
I don't care about the problems, all right? I want the game to be smooth for new people making new guilds. I don't care about this, hey, you have to socialize with me, and you have to make 10 allies, and you have to place with 5 of us. You have to avoid playing with us.
You want a matchmaking system for guild v guild?
Hold on. So they tried doing it by making T4s pay a lot more, but the member cap was really high. It was 100 people. And so a lot of guilds that play at that level really only mandate that you're there for like one node war and siege. And a lot of them don't even mandate the node war anymore. So trying to pull 100 people on a Tuesday night just really wasn't something that happened. And then it would pale in comparison of just owning siege. And so what you're describing is what the community kind of had to solve because of the waning PvP interest by siege. It was just siege. You got qualified. You did what you had to do. It was practice and formations on Node War, and then fight night was Saturday night. And that's why it was so important to put these changes in effect that you were kind of dismissing earlier.
So because the developers did a bad job developing tier 4s, and it died because of that, it is now okay to make all PvP worthless across the board.
No, you're making a mountain out of an anthill on this one, man.
But that's the thing, though. Like, how is all PvP worthless if there's more people doing nodes and siege now than there has been in literally the last 4 years?
Because it doesn't mean anything.
It does mean something if there's literally 2 to 3 times more people participating.
Why do people like don't care about the siege region right now? Right? Because it doesn't matter. You didn't have to earn it. Right? The game is not set up in a fundamental way to make guilds.
There are people that care about siege. Otherwise,
if it was set up in a good way, Tim would be playing Black Desert Online right now because it was actually worth his time.
But Tim also has like 10,000 plus hours.
But it's not good enough.
Any game becomes shit if you play it 10,000 hours.
It's not good enough, and it's not rewarding enough. It's not prestigious enough. Right?
I can speak for myself. I'm done with BDO. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and I want to move on to something else. I don't care what they do with the game. I'm not going back. It had nothing to do with anything else besides that.
What I'm saying, if they had a good enough system, right, that was in place, that was prestige enough, you would reconsider that, right? And I'm saying right now, it's not a good system because you're not even tempted. You're like, that's a joke, right? You're saying that's not even a joke. Like, that would never do that in a million years. And that's a testament to how bad the current thing is.
It doesn't matter what they do with it.
It's just a testament to how bad it currently is. That it doesn't even tickle your fancy at all. Like, it's never in a million years you'd ever contemplate that.
You're not even listening to me now.
But yeah,
I think everyone's a little like weirdly worked up over this. But so here's the question, Tim: if you were starting Aftershock right now in BDO, do you think you'd have a better or a worse time starting a guild from scratch than you did, 2 or 3 years ago?
Than the last time I started it?
Yeah.
All things equal, easier.
Like significantly, or?
No, not significantly.
And is it easier because of things that the developers have done?
Because just the sheer amount of people that they're bringing in and the guild identity that they reinstated by capping mercs on every single version of PvP.
Yeah, but capping mercs
So
was the thing when
the
you built
capping mercs
Aftershock.
change alone. Yeah,
Well,
just the
it's-
capping merch change alone definitely makes it easier to make a guild. Is there
Mhm.
anything else you think they've done that would make it easier for you to start a guild right now?
The promotion of the game, all the Twitch drops, the fact that they're listening to the community and there's raised interest specifically with Siege, so there is a prestigious thing to hold in front of people that we can go accomplish together.
So you would
That's
be
something
okay
we
with
can really
having
rally.
like 1, 2, and 3 month players in the guilds, making up a significant portion of the guild.
That was
would
the
be part of your
basis.
recruitment pool.
That was the basis of Aftershock, is we always had a contingency of terrible players that had the heart that were PvPers in other games that wanted to learn, because I feel like that's the best way to have loyalty and longevity in a guild. Even though I never really experienced too much of that, it was really my own personal mistakes and learning curves. But I thought that having new players within a guild, new to the game, was an important contingency to have just as much, or important faction to have just as important as the strong core.
But when you made your guild originally, they didn't have this what's it called? Recruitment thing? What's it called?
Mhm.
the mercs. They didn't have mercenaries, right? That was added
Yes,
after
they
you created.
did.
Yeah,
No.
to get,
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. It's been
Yeah,
a thorn
no.
in it.
I
Yeah,
started
for a long time.
Aftershock 2.0, and there was the merc system helped us get up on our feet for the first couple weeks, and then it was the worst part of Aftershock from the second week after. Without any
I must have a
looking
I must
back on
be, like,
Aftershock, the merc system was the worst thing that happened to our guild.
because I thought they made it like it was like a 10 cap, and then they changed it to unlimited or something. I thought there was like some change that fundamentally made it way worse.
Bro, even before the merc system happened, you would have people that would drop guild.
No, I'm not
24
talking about
hours
that. I'm
before the
wondering, like,
siege.
wasn't there like some like fundamental change they made to the merc system though, like along the way that made it worse?
No, they've never capped. It's never been capped ever since they introduced it for Siege. It has never been capped.
This is
That
why
was the
this is such a
problem.
big thing.
Yeah.
That is what killed our guild. That is what killed our desire to continue. There was no guild identity. People would just drop because they wanted to troll.
I remember
the
I
streamer
fought
man
with
and
you
all that kind of
guys in the
stuff,
Node
right?
Wars
So,
and that kind of stuff. Like I remember,
Yeah,
I remember
there's-
fighting like a full snake guild that wasn't snake. And
I
stuff like that.
I couldn't get myself to motivate myself, much less 99 other people to keep going.
There were so many times where we would have had a good like 60v60 on Balanos, but because of the merc system, it was 100v60, and it just wasn't fun for either side. Like, other than, slamming a fort in 10 minutes, then spamming, a bunch of slurs in white chat, which I guess some people find fun.
And all these cunts would lie to you about how many people they were going to bring, and then let's go. Yeah, we only brought 60 when they clearly brought 95, and then shit talk you and slur
enough
you.
of me going on my tangent about this stuff. I'm curious what needs to be changed on top of what they've already done to continue iterating on the good changes they've been doing so far.
A time machine.
That's not. Stop being like give me a fair answer, right?
No,
I'm trying to be.
I don't
I'm trying to
think BDO
change,
is-
not be argumentative.
I really don't think BDO is doomed. I think if they continue to streamline the combat and they continue to lower the barrier to entry and they continue to listen to what people want, I think the PvP scene could definitely make a comeback. Will it ever be like it was in 2016, 2017? I don't know about that, but I mean, with enough effort and enough time, I think it could be.
Yeah, I think it's well on its way, actually. No, so I'm saying for me, a time machine is the only thing that I couldn't. I'm not trying to be argumentative either. But I think they're well on their way to another kind of golden era of PvP.
I mean, the biggest thing is
those S tier
finally
problems
listening.
and that's one of the S tier
the biggest
problems
thing.
that we put out before. But you still have desync, right? You still have these major problems with the game that are pretty terrifying. But they're starting to put some of these rules in place that are getting it around there, but they've got to fix the lag. They've got to fix some of that time to kill stuff for sure. But capping gear is part of that.
Like they literally added the skill, the SOB skill, to help with like time to kill and like players being able to like actually stay in a fight more. But then it had issues and people were complaining about it. And then this week they just fixed it. They literally made it like, okay, well now you can't build up this like really strong guild skill by throwing your body into the enemy guild's base. You only build it up if you die inside your own base. So it's like they literally listened.
Sure, but
within,
that's
like,
a
a week.
problem that they created. I don't really have
Yes,
much
but problems
respect.
will be created. It's better to try to make solutions and then create problems and then fix the problems based on player
But the
feedback than to
rage,
not do shit for 3 years.
I feel like my kind of issue with that is like the rage system doesn't really fix anything. It's sort of like I just don't understand why it was added to the game. Maybe you guys understand better, like why it was actually added. I just don't really see the point.
No, I don't think anyone thought it was a good system. Or, I mean, it's like Trina Axis, right? I don't think there's anyone in the entire game who was like, "Oh yeah, we need this."
Yeah,
It's more so the idea of trying something, right? The idea behind it is if you're getting slammed in your base by 2 guilds, you get this skill that builds up that will give you guys a couple seconds of like increased defenses to fight back. That's the general idea. I don't think anybody ever asked for it, but it's just their idea of trying to add something.
Okay.
Trying to
Okay.
attempt something.
It's because once with the time to kill, it really does come down to time to kill. And then some of these larger or older guilds, once they get a footing on your base, especially if it's like early, right? Like Jester's in chat, he just said, once Cho gets on your base, there's nothing you can really do about it. And so it gives some of these guilds a fighting chance to not just lose in 5 minutes. Is what I haven't done it, I haven't seen it, but from what you guys have described and what I've heard from other people is, and what my personal experience is, once you get set up on a base and you're casting in, man, there's nothing those guys can do except for die and have a bad time. So it gives them a fighting chance to come back to it. And the fact that it's only at your base, so you can't just go in and int and then get this super buff or whatever the case is. Like the fact that they changed it so it only happens when you're in your base is it's a smart change. I didn't like the idea at first, and now that they've iterated on it a little bit better, it sounds like a good workaround for them not knowing what to do with time to kill.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative to that is really hard because you have to fix healing and burst damage, and
I get
like
it, but I'm still going to stab them for it.
yeah, like maybe that is an okay alternative if they don't really want to tackle the beast yet. I'm trying to think. Let me look at my notes here. Season Plus was announced. If we want to kind of change gears a little bit.
I love when things have pluses after them, bro.
Does it make you feel good?
I feel like this is them trying to milk the cow. That's the feeling I get. Do you guys like buy another season pass, entice you with a pin because we weren't going to give you any more Kaposhas? I
mean, it's kind of like what you asked for, though, right? You want more avenues to coast new players into the game after they get dropped off by seasons. So the way that I understand this is that while you're doing seasons, pretty much literally everything is given to you. And then you make it into the real game and you have to save up for a Tet accessory or go for pin weapons and armors and things like that. And you're just dropped to the wolves. So the player drop off is massive. So the idea of this season plus is, exactly. So the idea of this season plus is that it literally coasts you into the game after seasons and helps you like adjust to the culture shock of being like, oh fuck, dude, like all my upgrades have come from literally just me grinding and pumping stones. Now I have to literally save up 12 billion silver to buy a Tet Black Star, So like the idea is it's what you asked for, right? To like help coast people into functions of the game that other older players are already accustomed to.
Did the developers forget that you can take a Tet armor or weapon and get it to pin with Kafirs?
I don't think they ever intended that to be a system for people to use.
Nope, that's how it was advertised. That's how it was advertised. So for them to advertise something as a way to get a pin through like steady work, go grind Kafirs and stuff them in your thing, or go grind silver and buy it off the marketplace. There's so many avenues to already do to get around RNG. Even in like some weird marketplace panic because Korea came out with something, it still writes itself in a reasonable amount of time where you can buy anything on that marketplace or at least get around the RNG of dealing with it. So I don't understand why are they fixing a problem that's already been fixed several times over.
Well, the Kafirs isn't really a solution because Kafirs is 3 mil a pop on NA. So
well, here's the problem
it's like
with
25,
Kafirs.
30 bill to get a
then
pin.
buy it off the marketplace.
The problem with Kafirs is they introduced it as a system that you could go from Tet to pin, but then they also made it so that you could add stats on top of pin items, which was a system that didn't exist before that. So they did two different things that should have been separate systems, but they made them into one. And because people wanted stats in their pin items, the price of Caphras, which should have been 1 mil, went up to 3 mil, and then it became immediately not viable to use them to get from tet to pin. But that was their original intention, was to go from tet to pin, which is kind of funny when you think back about it now.
Well, I think that is sort of like a smoke and mirrors type thing for them. Maybe that's not the right way of saying it, but it's the same thing like plus 14 to 15. They added it to the game. Like, look, we added pry to pin, but we're going to make it where you can now force 13, 14, and 15 with these things. Or you can also get these refinement stones and make it plus 14, 15, and all that from refinement stones.
I actually really like how they handled that. I think that's interesting, and I've always like sweated over if I should use that or not. I think out of a really bad enhancement system, how they handled 13, 14, 15 in a pry through pin era was super good.
But I feel like the reason they did that is not because they wanted to make the game fundamentally better. They did that as a way to excuse adding a new enhancing system to the game. So every time they add a new enhancing system to the game, they add this coping mechanism to something old in the game and make it a little easier in theory, right? And it's the same thing they did with Caphras. They added Caphras and they added, oh look, now you can get easier pins. It's not so bad, is it? But in reality, if you do the math, it's never worth it. It's the same thing for forcing 13, 14, 15. If you actually do the math on it, it's never worth forcing. Maybe if you have a one bad trip, you pick the force option because you just despise the RNG on it. But it's not mathematically better in any way. And I feel like that's what they did there. It's just it's sort of like a way to like, here's a bone because we added Caphras to 20 now. So I don't think it's I don't think it's much to be read into that. Also, I think another thing, they were trying to make it where you would use cronstones to get Caphras, and they were trying to find a way to monetize the game in a weird way like that, where you would just cron things to get Caphras, and then that'd be like another pay to win method as well.
I just think they forgot about it. I don't disagree with you that it should have been two separate mechanics, but
yeah,
nice. If people are complaining about RNG, there's literally two separate and affordable, reasonable ways to get around it.
Well, the idea is I don't think it's more so the season plus is something that's being implemented to like as for people complaining about RNG. I think it's literally just to alleviate the culture shock. Like, could you imagine starting BDO as a new player now and you having basically pin Tuvala more so given to you just by grinding for the materials and just slamming them into your gear? And then you get dropped into the actual game where it's like, okay, well, now I really have to worry about like my silver per hour. And like my next upgrade went from just grinding some like Tuvala stones to now it's like I have to grind for, 43 hours to buy this item off the marketplace. Or I have to like figure out how to enhance a black star, which the game hasn't even like taught me about like the magical black stones. So like, I think it's kind of like something that really needs to happen if you want the game to be more appealing for the long term instead of just the slow and pump and dump when a new class comes out or if a new season has started. I think it's something that has to happen.
There's the way you ease people into the grind is, I think, the core issue, right? That they need to figure out how to tackle. And I don't know if this is the best way of doing that because, anyway, the idea is like the first thing you grind for your first, dopamine hit is like 5 minutes. The next one is 6 minutes. Next one is 8 minutes. The one after that's 10 minutes. Then it's 15 minutes. Then it's 20. And it slowly increases over time. So the dopamine hits span out, but you kind of get used to that, right? You kind of get used to that slightly longer grind for the dopamine, but you do it because you like it. And I feel like right now, like it goes from like Tuvala gear, which takes a week or two to do, depending on how advanced you are, maybe a couple weeks if you're new. And then it goes from like a couple weeks to literally it's like 3 months of grinding. And I feel like that gap is too much for people to kind of bridge mentally to go for the next thing. I feel like it wouldn't even hurt to make the Tuvala harder to get in order to like kind of teach people a little better for going towards the next thing.
Because you have to think, right? Like, even with the Tuvala, like, even in going from enhancing Tuvala to enhancing regular boss gear, even though it's the same, it's completely different. Because, like, with Tuvala, you just kind of slam stuff into it willy nilly because you can just repair it at the NPC, right? By getting more stones and buying duplicates. When you're enhancing regular gear, I mean, you get dropped into the game and memory fragments are 2.2 mil on a good day. And it's expensive as shit just to try to do, like, a try attempt.
Well,
So,
I'm
it's
speaking
kind
of
of
it more of a
must.
factor of time, right? Like a factor of time. It's not about how easy or similar they are. It's just that the factor of time you have to spend on one TET is relatively small compared to what I think it probably should be. And I think if it was like twice as long to get per TET, then going to that pin would be a little easier to cope with.
Yeah, so it's like you get used to your upgrades being 10 minutes apart, and then all of a sudden you run out of 10-minute upgrades and your next one's 2 months away. Like it's that jarring shift that I think needs the rework. And I think the devs can sense that something's wrong there, but they haven't quite like got their finger on the pulse yet. And they just need to look at the whole system in its entirety rather than trying to fix like just this one part at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing a good job though, right?
I don't know. I mean,
the biggest thing, literally, like the most massive change that I can think of is just being able to trade the Blackstones for fail stacks is just freaking insane. Like, obviously, there's other ways they could have done it better, but I think just adding that is been a huge change.
Well,
yeah, it's a very good change, but I mean, the thing is, like, they figured that out with BDO Mobile 2-3 years ago, whenever that started, right? So, like, why is there such a delay? I mean, the solutions to some of these problems are very obvious, and yet they're still like extremely, extremely slow to implement them.
Yeah, I feel like the issue is they're quickly running out of things that are obvious to the players. Like the players are not game developers, and there's only so long you can listen to players' feedback until eventually you have to come up with your own like intuition about what makes a game good, what needs to be fixed. And I feel like they're starting to run into that problem a little bit with like some like Tuvala. Players will tell you that I want Tuvala faster, 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 faster. And the result might not be that Tuvala should be faster or pins should be easier and stuff. I mean, that would obviously make the game, like a little bit more enjoyable, but at the sacrifice of the longevity of the game.
Yeah, but in the same narrative, you just said that they should make it easy for someone to make a new guild and get into node wars and then like not really have to stress about learning those intangible skills. But now you're saying that in terms of progression, a person should have to slog through making Tuvala. Like can't.
You're conflating two different ideas, right? One is a streamlined process of getting gear, which is Tuvala, which is really good, and we're talking about making that require more time, but the streamlined process doesn't change. For making a guild, making a guild and getting it into Node Wars is not a streamlined process. It's not very clear. It's not easy to do. It's like trying to do getting your gear in BDO without seasons. It's not really that good. And that's kind of the difference there. One is a factor of time. The other one is kind of like a streamlined process. And I feel like in Tuvala, it's already really a good system. It's actually really good. They just need to make it where the factor of time balances out better. So player expectations are more reasonable when it comes to the actual gear in the game. And then for seasons, it's not. For guilds, it's not a time factor. It's more a streamline factor. And I think those are a little different, personally.
Wow.
Dude, I'm surprised that I actually was able to get you guys to talk about BDO for more than an hour, honestly.
I'm not happy about it.
Like, that's an achievement from my end, honestly. I'm the only one that still plays.
You're a fucking troll.
I mean, I'm gonna need something to do, a year and a half from now when I get bored of Lost Ark. So, keeping my eyes on BDO.
Yeah, if you ever actually did that, how many people would be like, so you finally came back to BDO, huh?
Yeah.
I knew you couldn't stay away.
I knew you wouldn't be able to stay away for 2 years.
No one quits BDO forever.
You guys want to talk about Elyon?
Yep.
Whoa.
What is there to talk about in terms of Elyon? What they do?
Oh, well, so they did
Get ready
thing.
for this.
You know how people were paying $100 to pre-order the games? They could get head starts and stuff.
There were dumbasses doing that? Wow. Tell me more.
Well, the game is now going free to play.
What?
So
Yep.
if you pre-ordered it for $100, you are going to be getting compensation. I don't know what that means. It doesn't sound like a refund. I don't know.
In-game
Maybe
currency.
people-
What?
They're getting in-game currency for
That's what they're
less than the
getting?
value.
And BDO is the game people shit on when they're doing
So-
that?
If you spent $100, you're getting $70 worth of rubies or whatever.
Hell yeah, dude.
Wait,
You
they're
feel
giving you
compensated?
$100 worth of rubies? They can't even be generous and give you like a little extra or something?
And they went into their old bag of tricks, KEKW did, right? And they go, oh, yeah, this one. Remember when we told the BDO community that we wouldn't implement pay to win or that it wasn't coming? Hey, so we're going to make it free to play. But it's not our intent.
Didn't they literally
To
claim
include pay
that
to
the
win.
reason BDO went pay to
Not
win
right.
was
Not our intent is what they said.
so
Oh,
weird, dude.
they put a whole message on Twitter. It is literally, I mean, it's crazy. Someone highlighted this, and for what it really means, it's clear that 2021 has been a year of the MMO, with some fantastic entries being released. While we feel that our Elyon can hold up its weight to any of them, we basically feel like they can't hold up to any of them. We also
Yep.
understand that the time investment required for MMORPG is not compatible with the abundance of choice. So after some heavy consideration, we have decided to make some changes to our business model and make Elyon free to play.
What the fuck? So they're basically
so in
saying,
other
yeah, we're gonna
words-
sell you gold.
Well,
Well,
and
in other words, there's too much competition now. We don't think people actually want to buy this shit. We didn't get as many pre-orders as we thought we would, so we're changing our business model because we're fucking terrified of New World, Lost Ark,
yep.
Endwalker, and everything else that's happening right now.
So, for people who don't know, their previous release date was around the same time as New World released. New World got delayed, and then New World delay basically plopped right almost exactly on top of Elyon.
Yeah, not good if you're an Elyon dev.
No.
New World is going to release the same week. Whoopsie, we didn't plan for that.
Yeah, so they moved it to October 20th now. This is what they say about their business model change, right? We will be offering compensation to all of our pre-order players, and further details will be found on our website post on this topic. Although we've made this change, we wish to reiterate that our vision for the cash shop is that that is contained within Elyon is not altered, and our intent is not to use this as a justification to add pay to win. And in translation there, we're going to use this as a justification to add pay to win. That's exactly what they're going to do.
I mean, why else would they go to free to play?
Oh yeah.
How else are you gonna keep the
Yeah,
lights
we're going to
on?
go free to play, but there's not going to be any pay to win. Okay.
Right? Like, what the fuck? How do you keep? Are you gonna keep the lights on? The fuck?
Well, number one,
We're
BDO,
just going
right?
to sell costumes, you guys.
Number two, and this is real. This is some nerddom for you, real quick. Star Trek has Ferengi, right? And they're like they're merchants by trade, and they're really conniving. And they have a thing that they reference called the rule of acquisition, which is their Bible, basically. Rule of acquisition number one, literally number one. Once you have their money, don't give it back. Never give it back. Sorry, never give it back. And that's what this is. That's exactly what this is. This is so predatory. It's unbelievable. And the best part of this is, I don't know if you did this exploration potion, but if you click on that, when I see something on Twitter, the first, like, okay, that's something, let's check the comments. You would expect the comments to be, fuck you and your family. I'm going to find out where you live, all that kind of shit. They must have paid people to go, excellent choice. Absolutely. Great job. I'm so happy you're doing this. Like partner, like Twitter partner people, like major people that are supposed to have brains or know about video games or something. They're applauding them for this. They're ramming people in the ass that spent money on it already. And they're clearly setting up for this game to be pay to win. And they're like, what a great decision.
Because
So-
it's free now, dude.
I mean,
Well,
first of all,
they-
who is
they-
paying
For people who
$100
haven't paid.
pre-order Elyon,
Oh,
bro? Like,
Well, that was predatory too. You had to pay $100 to play the game when it launched.
like, who the fuck was
If
paying
you paid
$100 for
70,
Elyon?
If you paid
Lot of
70, you could play the next day. If you paid 50, you could play the day after that. And if you didn't pay, or if you just paid 20 or whatever, you could pay 3 days after it launched. Fuck you. Once I saw that, I'm like, I'm never playing.
Oh,
this game.
don't worry.
Absolutely
They
not.
understand. unfortunately, due to these changes that we've made to our business model, it is necessary for us to delay the game to prepare back-end systems to make the required changes. The new release date for Elyon will be October 20th. So sad. I really hope that if New World gets delayed, they plop it right on October 20th, just
What
right
the
on the
absolute
day.
Fuck is with the MMO community and delaying shit for shit reasons, dude.
Well, now I get to
Fuck.
play Elyon to go recruit for my New World guild. Tired of Elyon? Join Aftershock in New World on server Eden. Message Tim Allen 1337 on Discord.
Now, I'm really curious though, like I want to know how many people are actually hardcore fans of this. Like there's some small niche audience that's like, oh, this is the best. They're just like 1,000% simping for it, and they think it's going to be really good. And
Idiots without $40. Yeah. I mean, not just broke people, but a Venn diagram, like a cross section of dumb broke people, are the people that are going to be excited about this.
I actually feel kind of bad for the Elyon devs because you got to think they started working on this a few years ago. You know, they took all the code from Terra and they were like, "Hey, we can reskin this and make a lot of money."
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, you know, really their only competition was like, you know, BDO and I don't know, maybe a couple other weird Korean games.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, in their last year of development, all these actually really promising games are coming out. And now they're like, oh shit, no one told us that all these good games are going to be coming out at the same time as our game.
Well, that's why they remade it. It was Air, remember? And it was trash. And so they remade it into like a proper Korean style
trash.
And it's still fucking hot trash. But they
fucking so boring.
I think they were just going to throw like fodder out there because they saw the writing on the walls with BDO and they wanted to get in that space because of the money they were making from it. And then they realized that like, oh fuck, this is terrible. And you know, some other good games are coming out. Let's try to make this more BDO-esque.
Well, I think one thing that's going on behind the curtains here is that KEKW Games still wants a presence in the gaming industry and they're trying to fill that gap. And they don't want to close the NAEU studio that they have from Black Desert, right? It's still running. It's still in the same place, same building.
Dude, they're doing Guardian Tales is completely
they had other games besides BDO. They have a bunch of like weird mobile games.
They came out with Guardian Tales a little over a year ago and they're making a lot of money off of that.
Yeah. I think that this is probably one of the things that we're trying to do, right? I think this is like one of the things like, hey, we'll get an MMO out there to kind of just get it out there. They also, KEKW also has, this is Bluehole who designed Elyon, and they took Terra, right? They've also paid the Arcade developers to develop Arcade 2, and that's KEKW Games are paying them to do that for them. And
imagine.
So
there's no way that's good. Imagine paying somebody to develop a sequel to a game. Hey, we really want you to make this. Can you make it for us? Sure, if you pay me. That's going to have so much soul and direction and heart. It's just going to be a wonderful experience.
I think if they're genuinely designing it from the ground up and not just taking, Arcade, if they're genuinely designing it from the ground up on a new engine, and they have a good dev team, they're taking like 3 years to make it, something like that. 3 or 4 years.
I do think that if there was an MMO that was to be remade, and if they pulled it off, it would be pretty huge. As I would say, Arcade, because like the game on release and around that first year of life was huge. It was like massive, like pretty groundbreaking in some of the things, but then they kind of fucked up with the management and the way that they like monetized it. So like, I mean,
you're
it's
thinking
possible,
too much into this.
But it's probably not going to happen though. In reality,
you're thinking too much into this. The premise of the idea, if they have to pay them to develop this game, if they have to pay the developers to develop the game, the premise is already wrong. The game's failed.
If I like being a doctor, I still want to get paid. That doesn't mean I don't like being a doctor.
What are you saying?
This is like this is your parents paying you to go to doctor school because they want you to be medical school because they want you to be a doctor. That's what this is. It won't work. It's going to.
But they've already made a game before, so they're already a doctor before they're getting paid to be.
Well, if they understand that
analogy doesn't work.
Like this is, I think your idea. I think your idea is actually spot on, Tim. If Black Desert didn't exist, because Black Desert literally exists because of that, right?
It literally exists.
KEKW Games basically sponsored the curation of Black Desert. I don't know that. Yeah, and so they actually made that happen. That's why they had a publishing deal with it. That's why they had a publishing deal for NAEU. And so they're doing the same thing they did with Black Desert, and they're trying to do it again with Elyon, which didn't turn out that well, and they're trying to do it again with Arcade
Wait.
2. And so we'll see.
Where are you getting this from?
Basically, that's why they have that's why they had a contract with the publishing in Korea for so long, because they basically helped them pay those bills. And that's why they got out of that contract, is that the developers kept the rights after the separation. But the money was coming from KEKW Games in Korea. Yeah. I mean, they were the major funding there. That's the whole reason why they wanted to get out from underneath the thumb of KEKW Games in Korea. Like KEKW Games in Korea is a big.
I'd be interested to read more about that.
Yeah, it's a really big thing. They got a deal from KEKW Games to help them, and then they had a really, really big investor early on, who's currently still holds a big stake in Pearl Abyss. You can go look it up on. What's the Facebook for business? What's that thing called?
Lemon Party.
No.
LinkedIn.
You can look in LinkedIn and you can go back and see where they got a huge investment and probably find a little bit of tracking from there if you want to look it up a little bit more. But yeah, that was a big part of it for like a long time, and I think KEKW Games is just trying to fill that void a little bit and try to have another game in that section. And I don't know if they'll be successful or not. Like I think they're going to set up the same deal, right? Elyon will probably fall back to the developers after a couple of years, and the developers will have to choose to renew or not to renew. And then the same thing will be true with Arcade 2. I would imagine is that they're going to pay for development of Arcade 2. Developers get to keep the IP rights, and then after a couple of years, they have to choose to renew or not. And I assume it's just going to be the same thing, and they're just trying to fill that void to that they have from Black Desert.
Man, I will be amazed.
That was a roller coaster.
If Elyon is still growing after a year.
No.
Isn't free to play is what they put games that are on life support, right? So
They're
this game has
life support before it even launches.
Yeah, the patient's already dead. They're in denial. They're so deep into it, they literally have to scam people for pre-orders and then try to lie to you without. It's not our intention to put pay to win mechanics in. How more obvious?
What
do they
a weird
have to be
wording. Yeah,
that we're going to fuck you in the ass the second we can.
We didn't
get in the van.
We
it's
didn't
totally
intend
safe
to do pay to win. We didn't mean to. It just sort of happened.
Well, if we want to keep the game on, we've got to monetize it better than what's happening now. So we didn't intend for this to be the case, but unfortunately our game sucks and not enough people are giving us money for our bad game. So now we're forced to, but we didn't intend to.
If you look at the business side of things, like they're just trying to get their money back out of this investment, right? They're trying to get their money back out of it and then put that into probably Arcade 2 or whatever they're going to do, right? That's all they're trying to do is business side. And I get that. Like it sucks the players are going to get the short end of the stick on this. But that's what that's what they're trying to do.
They just scammed thousands of people and didn't even give them the direct valuation of the money that they used to pre-order.
I mean, they could
and
probably
they're
still get a
setting the stage
refund,
for
though,
pay to
right?
win.
Yeah, I'm
if
sure
you
they can
PayPal
go
or
and get a
something.
charge back or whatever.
I mean,
like,
bot gold sellers and pilots are probably happy about that because they get their like accounts for free.
If you're gonna spend money on Elyon, you're a fucking idiot. I'll just say that straight up.
I actually think that overall they're doing their players a favor, because if you did do the $100 pre-order, you're probably just going to go ask for a refund, right? And then you're still going to try the free-to-play version of the game. So luckily, like I think for a lot of these people, they'll actually not spend money on the game and they'll get to try it for free and realize that it never was worth $100. And then, they'll still waste their time, but at least they'll get to save some
They
cash.
got $70 worth of pay to win to use in 6 months when it comes out.
It's not their intent to be pay to win, Tim.
This is so dumb.
But
I can't believe the Twitter.
They're going to use
Twitter
those
feed of people
rubies
that
on
believe
skins. They're going to spend their rubies on skins, okay?
Well,
I know they are. And then pay to win's going to come out. They're going to be like, oh, shucks.
$70 worth of costumes.
I don't think it's like we already know that, right? We already understand how the game's going to be. We have experience with KEKW Games and BDO and all this stuff. Like, I'm not really too worried about it. Like, it's not going to affect us, right, in any significant way. Like, anybody who's played BDO and like watched BDO streamers, like, they're not going to get affected in any significant way. I don't really care too much. Like, I don't think it's a big deal. Like,
I mean, this is a company that we have. Whatever your opinion about this company is, It doesn't even matter. Let's call them company X. Comes out with a video game they've been working on, has a beta, everybody tries it. Bland response. Then they have this really predatory pre-order thing, and then they go, oh, never mind. Here's 70% of your value in in-game stuff. By the way, we're not intending to put pay to win in just because it's free to play, even though every Korean game that's ever done that does that.
I mean, everybody's going to agree with you.
Even if that doesn't affect you, that is predatory as fuck. It's skeevy as fuck, and there should be some major backlash. But you got these idiots or bot accounts or people they're paying to go, well, great choice. It's objectively unethical.
Sure. But there's all sorts of people all across the entire world that are being unethical and mean and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if I want to spend my entire day arguing about
MMOs, Potion. Come on, we're in a podcast about MMOs.
I don't want to argue about it all day.
You're not wrong.
Like, it's not worth my time.
People are bad.
It's not. It's not worth my time to argue about it all day. Like, we all can agree it's bad.
Let's move on to a topic that is worth your time. Then, my bad. I thought corruption and obvious scamming within the MMO community in a game that used to publish the game that we all made our streams over was an interesting topic.
It was way more interesting talking about coronavirus and medical corruption there, all right?
Oh, yeah, let's go back to that.
No,
I'm going to throw up on stream right now.
No, I don't know. It's like, it's easy to like emphasize the negative points, right? Like, I don't know. There's people who are going to play that. And
because they're stealing.
People are going to get their money back if they want their money back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exaggerating a little bit. I'm pretty sure you can get a refund if you just ask for a refund. But it is like the fact that they were selling these pre-orders to begin with for so much money is already like a big fucking joke.
Yeah.
And then I think where the unethical or the scam part of this comes in is them pretending like this change isn't going to be an incentive for the devs to add predatory pay-to-win mechanics later on.
True.
Of fucking course it is. Like, it's not our intent to add pay-to-win. What the fuck does that mean? If they came out and said, okay, we're going free to play, but we are promising you guys right now that our microtransactions are going to be cosmetic only and they will not be gameplay affecting. They will not affect your character strength or their progress. If they made a statement like that, I would be like, sure, fine, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, if you think you can sustain that model, it's kind of sketchy, but if you think you can sustain that model, amazing. But coming out and saying we're going free to play and it's not our intention to add pay to win, that's a scam. That's a fucking scam.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm an emotional communicator. I don't like these people to begin with, and they're doing shitty shit again, and I really want to nail them to the cross.
Shitty shit?
Yeah, they're doing shitty shit. They're not doing good shit. They're doing bad shit. They're doing shitty shit.
That's one too many beers shitty shit. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody who's surprised by this, right? Do you think there's
I mean, were any of you guys actually gonna play Elyon? Honestly?
No, because they were charging me $100 to play it on launch. Absolutely not.
I wasn't going to play it because it's not a fun game, personally. It had nothing to do with the price.
I couldn't even get
I
to
didn't
that
want to play it
point.
because it reminds me of
do you
that
think there's
old
like
era of games of like Terra and Aeon? And
do you think
shit.
there's a lot of people who were actually fooled by this though? Like they were actually like, I just don't see it. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're smarter, right? I want to think
this is a surprising move. Unprecedented. This is an unprecedented, slimy, surprising move.
You're surprised by the sliminess of Cacao Games?
It's not. I mean, I don't know if it's unprecedented. There's quite a bit of precedent.
I think it's brazen, even for them. I really do.
I mean, they kind of obviously it probably wasn't fully under their control with the BDO thing, but I mean, they also told us back then in BDO 2017 that
there's BDO partners saying it's a good thing. Oh my god! Wow.
There are
video partners have consistently bad takes about everything.
Apparently, that just keeps getting worse and worse, huh?
Well, the ones that good takes aren't playing the game anymore.
The inmates are running the asylum over there.
Hey, bro, Nico Too Low don't play no more. He don't make good takes, so
don't slander Nico. We're having him on next week.
Oh, true. Yeah, true.
I actually,
I'm sick.
I do think he has like reasonable. I do think he has reasonable takes, not on everything, but as far as like a hardcore player who likes doing PvE progression to get to PvP, I think his takes are reasonable on that particular topic.
On the mountain of saying that after the mountain of bad takes over the past 2 hours I've sat through with you, that means nothing to me.
I have no idea if he has good takes or not, and I don't really care. I think we should have him on either way.
Potion's gonna slap me. He's gonna reach right through them.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Potions talking about Siege and Node War, please.
I don't know which one of my the topics we've had today was the best or worst or whatever.
It was that one.
I just think I didn't do a good job communicating what I wanted to say, right?
Yeah, my
didn't
chat
actually
was
want to go back to
erupting.
it.
Like, why should Potion have any say on PvP if you don't PvP?
All right,
I was like,
that
"Oh,
that
no."
whole
your
narr-
chat.
that
I heard
whole
your chat was also getting mad at me for being skeptical of the vaccine. So I don't know.
True.
What do you got going
Might have a
on
bit of a
over there,
hive mind.
Kerr?
Might have a bit of a hive mind over there.
Yeah, I think like one of the things though is there's been this whole like topic that Potion can't have PvP takes, right? Because he doesn't PvP as much as I think, and it's just I don't like the.
Oh boy.
It doesn't make sense to me, right? It's like it's not like anyone else has played BDO more than I have, really, right? And like just because I don't PvP as much as other people do, or maybe I don't enjoy it as much, I don't think that it invalidates my opinion on it. And so people just want to throw this back every single time I have any type of opinion on PvP, that your opinion is invalidated because I have more experience than you. And I think that's just fundamentally bothers me. Like it really does. And it continues getting thrown out every time I say anything about PvP, right? People in chat immediately say that. And then Kerr, like you even regurgitate it, like, which is reinforcing it too. I just feel like it's really weird, and I'm not necessarily mad about it. It's just people being people at the end of the day. But I do think
if I didn't drive a car, I would never say cars shouldn't have airbags or some dumb shit like that.
Well,
I don't know. Do you need to drive or not drive to know if cars should have airbag? I feel like some of the stuff can be discussed with experience, and some of the stuff can be discussed without direct
he's talking
experience.
about like really intricate parts that are like when you're on the inside of this stuff, when you've experienced it and lived it for years.
Yeah, but your experience is like, well, in my experience, I got on Discord and like talked to other guilds and made friends, and that's how we solved the problem. And like, you don't have to experience that to have a philosophical view that solving the game's bad design in Discord is not the right way, and that the devs should offer those in-game tools instead of out-of-game tools to player. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm definitely on board with, like, you know, sometimes people are talking out of their ass in this podcast on a variety of topics, but I really don't think that was the case today with the whole Siege thing. I think you guys were being
why people get frustrated with some of your takes regarding Node War and Siege is because they're so obviously out of pocket and not
that does not justify talking bad about me, though.
I don't
know. Definitely not
personally.
All of us here, we definitely don't mean any like villainy.
Just when I don't know the intricacies of something, I generally speak less about it. I think is just like the main point. But like you go on for like 15 minutes about, and you kind of make shit up a little bit on it too. That it's, I mean, I said that's wrong like 7 times in a row in like a 5-minute.
Yes, but then you don't tell me exactly what is wrong about it. It's interesting to have a conversation about topics, right? Right. It's interesting to have a conversation about why you disagree on a particular topic and then justify those points. And then I can have a counter argument to that. But then I don't ever get the logical statement as a counter argument.
I explain it to you every time. Yeah, I explain it to you every single time. Yeah, I mean, you could re-listen to it, and I explained every single. Yeah, I tried. You didn't really stop, so I couldn't like interject every
this is
single
not
time.
This is not worth the rabbit hole. This is like going down.
Okay.
But like it ultimately, like what it boils down to is I don't think that we should, if someone has less experience in a topic, right, you educate them gently into the correct direction by leading them to the clues and take them to the next point, right? And I feel like at this point, a lot of times when I have a PvP opinion, and and they're not always right, they're not even close to right sometimes, I feel like I'm just immediately turned into a villain without really explaining why. Like I want to kind of, I'm some of my takes are like elementary, right? But that means there's also hundreds of other people out there who also don't understand it fundamentally.
Well, the biggest thing for me, I mean, is like how you were saying earlier. You were like that you don't think Siege and Node War is more popular now with all the changes they've made, and it's objectively more popular because there's literally 3 times more people dropping.
Well, you don't know that though, right? we
can
don't have
tell. We can literally see by the number of forts and the amount of kills and stuff people are getting in their gear screens, and like the number of people like that are making new alliances and things to participate. That's things that we could definitely see.
It's
Obviously we can't see the back
it's
end data.
anecdotal evidence though, isn't it? Right?
But isn't that the same thing when you say that it's not getting bigger, Potion? I mean, if we don't know, we don't know. Like, you guys are both asserting in
Sure.
opposite directions.
Yeah,
and just getting really
I
pissed
think
off
that's
at
a
the other
strong
person.
point, right? It's we both sides don't really know or have data to back up their argument, and so I think it's worth discussing both of them and seeing where the merits are of the arguments. So anyway, I don't know. We should go on to probably something else.
Like we can literally see there's more people at the sieges is all I'm saying. So it's like objectively more people doing it.
Well, that's just because you're watching streams, right? You're looking from a very narrow lens.
There's a counter of how many
What?
forts are on each territory.
You can literally open your map. Okay.
What else do we have to discuss this
I'm
week?
thirsty, bro.
Elvia spots are getting easier. Some of them are getting a little easier.
Kerr's got a
God,
fat butt. Damn, he's
Back on
big.
BDO.
Yeah, they're making all the ones that are like, I think like they're making them like 240 AP or something like that. Like the desert or swamp Fogans is one of them. Swamp Nagas is one of them. There's like a few of them that they're
Are they
making
nerfing the
easier.
loot, or are they just making all the spots easier?
I think they're just lowering the AP and keeping the loot the same, but I really didn't read into it enough to be able to talk into it in like detail.
That's interesting, I guess.
Kerr, for the Elvia
What?
spot changes, do you know the details of that?
So basically they made the spots that people weren't doing it or that weren't as good better. So all of the spots for Elvia, excluding Bloody Monastery and Orcs, they made them easier. So like making them do less damage and such to entice people to do them, as far as I understand. And they're also adding in more like rotations for the spots that are overly crowded, like Orcs and Bloody Monastery. They're adding in more like mobs, adding in more density, so people have more rotations.
That's I guess
That's the way I understood it.
Do we think that's going to actually help the lower end spots that are currently not popular? Do you think that's a good fix for those?
Maybe. The thing about a lot of the Elvia spots is not that they're very tanky. It's not that they're hard to do. It's just that they hit very hard. So I mean, I guess by making it a little easier, making them hit less hard, maybe. We're in a really BDO. I know you guys haven't been playing much, but BDO's in this really weird spot where like money is fucking kind of insane. Like you could go grind Basilisk nowadays and have some hours where you hit 200 mil by getting, 40, 50 Kaffers. Like there's some pretty insane like avenues for money making now. So honestly, I'm not even sure how much of a difference it's gonna make. Cause like again, like the silver progression nowadays is really like pumped. But I guess
Yeah.
we'll see. Right.
Isn't that just like standard year-over-year BDO progression, though? I mean,
Yeah,
I think
pretty much.
Like
Yeah.
every 6 to 12 months, the amount of money you make in that game goes up by 50%.
Well, the reason this happened this
Inflation.
time is because they added Kaffers to grind spots. So people who have maybe watching this and don't know, every grind spot that is like 240 and below, they added 10 Kaffers an hour, roughly. Every grind spot that's like 250 and above got like 20 Kaffers. And some grind spots got like 30 Kaffers an hour added to them. Like Achman, high-end Achman gets 30 Kaffers. Bassies, how much is Bassies? Do you know?
I don't
Bassies is
remember the exact number. I hear a lot of wild ranges. You know how
Yeah.
that is.
Bassies is pretty insane. Yeah, I don't know exactly what that is. There was something else. There was another. I want to say there was another one. Oh yeah. I think it was Thornwood Forest or wherever that place was. No, not that one. The one with the 300 AP grind spot in Kama Sylvia.
You talking about Ash Forest?
Yeah, I think Ash Forest was another one that was on the board that people were wondering about. I think it's pretty good.
They pretty much bumped the Kaffers for every spot other than Elvia. That's the TLDR over the last couple weeks, which
Yeah.
has caused a huge influx in Kaffers into the economy, but it's had an opposite effect. Kaffers actually has gone up instead of down, which is weird. It's kind of
Well,
interesting.
It's sort of like what happened to me is I got like 800 Caphras, and it's like, oh, I can just buy another 400, and then I can just get my Caphras level. And I mean, that's because that's where everybody's at, and I think that's just going to continue happening until everybody's Caphras level 20, right? Because, you know, that's what everybody's working on. So there's no amount that you can feed people that would be enough until everybody's just done. I kind of feel like they should just increase the maximum price on Caphras instead of increasing the amount of Caphras in the economy. And I feel like that would be a better compensation tool than, you know, expediting the progression of Caphras even faster.
Well, I mean, Caphras isn't exactly at max price on servers most of the time. Like like in NA, it'll hit max price every now and then, but it won't actually just sit there at max price. Like especially on like EU, I think EU nowadays they're like what we're 2.7, right, for Caphras on EU.
Yeah.
So like it's not really sitting sold out, maxed out all the time. So like increasing the max price doesn't really change a whole lot with it.
What do you think they're like? What do you think is going to come after Caphras? Because at this point, people are going to be done with Caphras within the next year, probably. Like at least the hardcore community will be. Do you think they're going to add like another grind to the game or something?
I think
Dead
there's
bad
such
for
a
Caphras.
I don't know, dude. I think there's such a revolving door of players that Caphras is always going to be expensive. Because, like, think about it, right? In theory, Vel's heart should go down as time goes on because everybody only needs one, right? And they're such but they've only just gone up and up year for year. So, like, I think there's more players coming in and staying in than you think. Because, like, why else would Vel, you know, keep continuously going up in price when every player only needs a single one? If they decide to go with Vel's heart.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we'll see. I don't know. It's interesting. It's gonna be depending on what they do. Like they're doing some kind of things. Like we're supposed to be getting the second Fallen God piece, the helmet, right, later this year.
Yeah.
That'll add another like big Caphras need, right? More people will be like, oh, I gotta push C10 on my helmet. And
But
then
you mispronounced Cronstone.
Yeah. I mean, you still have to get Caphras 10 first, Tim. Damn it, Boomer. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Whoa.
It's reform Boomer to you, all right?
Fuck you.
My bad, Zoomer.
Oh my god.
Dude, it is going to be so hard
Mr.
for me to
Allen.
enjoy PvP in any other game after playing New World. Like, holy fuck, I hope games learn from this game's PvP.
Apparently, there's big PvP going on right now.
The last like hour and a half while we've been doing the podcast, Volk and I have just been going around like 2v1, 2v2, 2v3, 2v4ing and just steamrolling, and it's so fucking satisfying, dude. Like the time to kill in this game is perfect. It's so good. I can't like it has to be an accident how good it is.
It almost certainly is.
I'm out of topics. I don't have any more topics on my list.
Wait, Moral, didn't you literally just say that you got bored of smacking people outside of First Light?
Big PvP in Monarchs. We need to go to Monarchs.
Is that where we're going?
Yeah. Once I kill this alligator.
Yeah, I will get bored. If I do this for another hour or two, I probably will get bored of it, honestly.
What do you guys I'm out of topics. What else you guys want to talk about? I feel like I owe Kerr or Tim a topic at the very least because of how much drama, or I don't know, whatever you want to call my shenanigans today.
Nah, dude, you're good. I'm trying
Fuck you.
It's been 3 hours. I mean, what else is going on?
I don't know.
Not much. What's up with you?
Gathering the star medal.
So I want to ask you guys a question.
Oh boy.
It's gonna be about BDO, okay? And you guys probably won't care. So BDO, they gave out these 2 cakes today with like a code for the 11-year anniversary of Cacao or of Pearl Abyss being a business or whatever. And so they have 20 charges, and there's 2 of them. There's a life skill one that they gave you. It gives you 100 mastery and 100% life EXP for 40 hours, and you can do it in 2-hour chunks. And they gave a combat one as well, which is plus 15% drop rate and 100% combat EXP for 40 hours. And you can do them in 2-hour chunks. Do you guys think that's like the way that they're going to go with like birthday cakes nowadays or whatever? Is that just like another layer of like power creep, I guess?
I think they're just looking for ways to retain players and increase playtime. So I think that's just.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that's like people just have that and be like, oh, I'm gonna burn through my cake and play another 20 hours, right? And then I'll give them a good excuse like, this is what I've been waiting for life skilling, right? I'm gonna level up my gathering or my cooking or my alchemy or something. I'm definitely gonna have to log in. How many days do we have to claim it? Do we have to do it today?
It says on the package valid in my mail, valid until October 9th, but you should definitely.
That's a good time. Yeah, I'll probably log in today and grab that. I actually do want to level up Striker level 20 after this changes. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I gotta make sure I log on and grab that too.
Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
I
couldn't think of any like philosophical question. That
the only thing I wanted to talk about was Elyon, but
what else we have on it?
No, I got it out. That's
okay.
That was my bonus topic for the week.
All right. I guess for our final topic, what was your favorite childhood game? It doesn't have to be your favorite, but just one that was memorable to you. I think
Need for Speed Underground 2.
When we say childhood,
that's just anything you played before you were 20 or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I can only pick one. Can I list them?
If we're talking 10 or below, definitely Need for Speed Underground 2.
Nah,
you're such a zoomer. What the fuck?
Bro, that was GameCube, bro.
I had card keys when that game came out.
God damn, bro, you got a walker right now?
So if I could go like kind of chronologically here, Yoshi's Island was a breakout game for me, actually. Followed up with Diablo 1, StarCraft 1, kind of the Blizzard games, and then EverQuest 1 changed my life pretty substantially into Star Wars Galaxies. And then by then I was a teenager.
Are we talking MMOs or are we talking non-MMOs? Because that's like a completely different answer.
Just games in general.
Oh, the Final Fantasy franchise too.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII and Ocarina of Time, definitely. Like, particularly Ocarina of Time. I don't think there's ever been a more like clear memory from when I was a little kid than the first time. Like, I have so many moments from that game that stand out to me. Like the first time you step into Hyrule Field, the first time you fire the bow. Like, there's so many things about that game and how next fucking level it was compared to all the games that came before it. Dude, I can like almost remember like how it felt like physically to play that game when I first like, oh my god, that game was so good, dude.
I'd take it
I think I was like 3rd grade or something for me, or 5th grade, something like that.
Super Mario RPG. I was obsessed.
That's a good one.
With that game in such a insane way. I can't believe my parents didn't like give me away and call me defective. I loved it for so many reasons.
See, I was different
so many times
because I didn't get internet in my house until I was in 8th grade. I didn't get any kind of internet in my house until I was in 8th grade, and it was dial-up. So like I didn't have those really young exposures to the internet. My younger brother and I, we had just like playing GameCube games over and over and over and over again. So like I don't have you guys played MMOs since you were fucking like 5 or some shit, dude.
Well, I played EverQuest and StarCraft on a 28.8 and 56K modem, respectively. And my parents weren't allowed to use the phone or anything when I was playing. So I mean,
dude, if you saw what it looked like to play Ultima Online when I first started playing it, I mean, you think it looks bad to go back and play that game now? When we first played it, dude, on our like Pentium 1 200 megahertz processors, it was like you would take a step, wait a second, and take another step, wait a second, and take another step. That was literally how you played fucking video games back then online.
And on the Pentium 2s, there was a turbo button so you could get it up to close to 400 megahertz.
What the heck?
If you're rich. Yeah, there's literally a turbo button up until like Pentium 4 on the physical computer. Yeah. Yep. I remember that very well. I remember in 5th grade, my friend got a gigahertz processor and I was seething mad. I was so jealous. That would play StarCraft so well. CS 1.6 was probably my first competitive game. How about you, Potion? What was your favorite game growing up? That was a good question. Wholesome.
I guess my first game that really stuck with me I had a Nintendo, and I played Duck Hunt and Super Mario on that, but that wasn't really a really big memory for me. Like, I was like my first experience with the games, but it wasn't a big memory. The first big memory was probably Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy. I got I don't think it was a Game Boy Color. I think it was just a Game Boy. And so playing Pokemon was my first game I played a ton of. And then after that, Ocarina of Time definitely has a special place in my heart. I was never good enough to get anywhere in the game, but I have lots of memories of like the skeletons coming up at nighttime in Hyrule Field, and going and speaking at Lon Lon Ranch, and going through like the first couple temples, and talking to the great Deku Tree. And that's actually where I pulled the name Potion Shop from, was part of that, because I just remembered that little shop in the original town, and that's where I kind of got the idea of a shop from. That was part from that. It kind of I wanted Potion Shop, just kind of reminded me of that, so I was like, that's something I really liked. And then over time that went into like Super Smash Brothers, and then ultimately Halo. I just played Halo for like literally years, like 5-10 years is nothing but Halo. And Halo's kind of what brought me into action games, and what made my standard for MMOs really, really high, oddly enough. I always wanted to play MMOs because of RuneScape, but they like, after playing Halo, I needed the action combat of Halo in an MMO, and at the time it was just tab targeting and RuneScape, and it just wasn't it. It wasn't what I was looking for. So I was kind of waiting, and played Vindictus a little bit, and eventually, that was good combat, but wasn't open world, and it was close but not there. And then ultimately BDO, right, and then now New World. That's kind of like this my gaming history. If I had to pick one, I had a lot of fun playing with my friends with Super Smash Brothers, or maybe Age of Empires 2. Those are probably like two of the ones that I like socially, and I think that's probably the ones I would pick, one of those two.
Dude, Super Smash after high school with the boys was like, holy! I must have played that game for like 3 hours a day for 2 years straight.
Mm-hmm. We'd all drink. We called it Hunch Punch or whatever, and we put 151 in some high C, and then we'd in the college dorms we'd get a GameCube and play Super Smash Melee until we were blue in the face. I played it the original, when I was younger too, but that wasn't like as big of a competitive experience as playing like RTS games. Playing Warcraft 3, StarCraft, stuff like that. That was more of that stands out more to CS 1.6. CS 1.1 to 1.6 gobbled up a good 4 years of my life. So, wow, what an interesting question. Thinking about all the different games I've dived in on super hard, from
one of
years
old. One of my like funniest memories from high school was after we played like 2 or 3 years of Smash Bros straight every fucking day. We went in, and the game actually records like the different characters, how many hours they've been played, and the win-loss ratios for each one. And we just like stared at that screen for like an hour, laughing at like all the different stats and like, the history of our high school together, and like how many fucking hours we spent playing that game. And like, yeah.
Pikachu's win rate 70%.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Well, I got a question. Okay, so I've had like 10 people ask me to ask you guys this.
Oh boy.
What do you apparently Fake Uniform quit, like a month ago.
Oh boy.
And
he's coming back. I saw on Twitter he's coming back.
He threw all of his gear in the trash bin, right? Well,
and he got it back.
They had this system where you could only like get back 2 items that you've trashed within the last like month, and they gave him all of his gear back. Like, do you think that it's right for them to show him that favoritism, or
that's not fair? You think that if someone else submitted a ticket saying that they donated all their gear and they want it back, they would get the lot? No, they wouldn't.
They literally don't even give you crystals back, bro. Anymore.
What is crystals? That's a different thing. You don't delete your crystals. You die and lose your crystals.
Exactly. So if they won't
give you
your crystals back,
exactly?
If they won't give you your crystals back when you died against your will due to server lag, why would they give you your shit back when you raged and threw it away?
All right, well, I'm actually...
When you can't control server lag and losing crystals.
At all, dude. What are you talking about
I think your analogy was about as good as mine have been today. But I do agree with you, Kurt, overall, that that basically that is probably favoritism that shouldn't be allowed. Frost,
I mean, like, I don't
care-
care. I don't care.
let me-
not favoritism.
I don't
This
care
is
either way,
absolutely
but it's
not
like-
favoritism.
it
Show
a
me
neutral
someone who
party.
submitted a ticket. You guys are being ridiculous. Show me someone who submitted a ticket saying they deleted their gear and they wanted it back, and they got a response from Prolibus saying, no, we can't do that for you. Show me that ticket if you're going to.
So Frostadamus quit the game, blew up his gear, deleted it, got all rid of it, and then put in a ticket saying he would like it back, and they give him back the items that were from Quest, but they did not give him back the regular items. And so, yeah, I don't think this is something that you should be doing, especially when he turns it into content. This is then encouraging streamers to get rid of all their gear, create lots of content, lots of drama about quitting their game, and then just come back, and then there's no consequences for them making all this drama for the game. And honestly, that probably hurt BDO, because you can imagine the number of people who probably quit because of fake uniform. And I think it's just setting a bad precedent. And I don't, even if it's not favoritism, whatever you want to call that, I think it's a bad choice for them to be giving gear back to streamers. And I don't think they would be doing that to regular players.
I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever this has to do with him being a streamer. The person who gave him his shit back is some minimum wage customer service rep who doesn't even fucking watch BDO on Twitch or play the game. Like, he doesn't care. He's doing a job. He's trying to answer tickets and get his solve rate to go up so that he can get a 10-cent raise next fall. Like, this, why are we thinking this is favoritism? You think like some big shot at Prolibus like personally reached out to Fake Uniform and conspiratorially solved all of his gear for him in a way that they wouldn't for other players?
The goddamn
like,
partner manager. That's what he did. It's not a fucking mystery more.
Like, every
time
time I've DM'd the partner manager, he says something along the lines of, I'll see what I can do. And then the next day I say, hey, anything? And he goes, no.
So I don't.
Yeah, but you had Emery though. You had Emery.
No, I'm not talking about Emery.
I don't really care. I don't really care about the whole.
About the current Prolibus people.
I don't really care about him getting the gear back or not. I'm more interested in should they be doing this in the first place, right? And I don't think they should. What do you guys think? Do you think they should be doing this to
if you
more people?
delete an item in the trash can? You don't think customer support should restore that? Of course
No!
they should. It has absolutely no impact on the game whatsoever for them to do that. We're not talking about him blowing items up. We're not talking about him selling items. We're talking about him putting it in an arbitrary space-saving thing in the bottom right corner of his inventory and that removes the item from the game. The only person that it affects is him. It doesn't affect anyone else in the game. Why do we give a shit if you undo that?
What a bad take.
Because it sets a precedent that one of your largest streamers is like fuck this shit game. I have better things
so now
to
it
do
is
and
about
throws
him
his
being a
stuff in
streamer?
trash?
So because he's a streamer, he shouldn't be able to delete his gear. You know how many people rage in BDO, delete their gear, and then submit a support ticket asking for them to get that shit back? That's why they added the automatic 2 item a month restore thing to begin with, so that when people delete their gear on accident or because they got emotional or whatever, they're trying to save on the manpower of people submitting tickets asking for items to get untrashed.
I think what should have happened, I think they should not be restoring anybody's gear, right? And if they want to make
if it's an accident, if you like accidentally like try to take your gear off and delete it, like there's a failsafe for that, and I think that's prudent. But okay, so my take, I was letting you guys go. Number one, I called this. I think I even called it on the podcast. He was going to be back. He has to be back. He doesn't have the spine to.
Yes, every time we know, Tim. Every time anyone quits, they're always going to be back. Everyone says this about everyone.
Number two, well, I was right. I don't say it about everybody. I didn't say it about you. Number two, this man wouldn't know character if it sat in his lap and called him dad.
Okay.
We don't need to be taking personal attacks.
I
want.
Can you save it, please? Like,
we
personal shit personal.
I'm mostly just saying that if you say fuck the game and quit the game and throw your shit in the trash, you should not be giving your shit.
So yeah, the question at hand here is not necessarily the personal value of this or about Fake Uniform. It's more about should players be able to get their gear back after deleting it all. And then if you want to take this a step farther, you could say, should streamers be able to get their gear back if they delete it all? And I think in both cases that should be no. And maybe if you want to make a compromise, you say you can get 2 items back per month. And that would be your compromise. And I think that would be because I would match the trash.
My gear and came back to the game, I'd just start fresh. I'd start with what I had and just
do it. I
made that decision.
Fine.
Just live with it, move forward with your
life. I'm asking like what you think they should do for the average person, because I think that's more interesting than making it about personal.
I mean that's everybody, right? If I make a decision, emotional or not emotional, he has to know he's an emotional person. He's probably the most, coming from me, he's the most emotional person I know.
Yeah,
Gotta
but it's
know that. You
not
gotta
about
accept
fake, not
it.
about
It
fake
just- it
uniform.
just-
Not about fake uniform. We're talking about
Anybody.
Yeah,
Anybody. If
Like-
you delete your gear, just you made that decision, live in it, and move forward.
okay. I think
I
that's a
just
fair
don't.
take.
I don't even. Again, for me, it's not even about who it is as a person. It's just exacerbated because who he is as a person, right? How popular he is. But I
Yeah.
just don't think you should be able to like
So
put on a charade and say "fuck BDO shit game," throw your shit in the
So
trash,
this-
and a month later come back and get it back.
there's two things to this.
Yep.
All right. So
So
Tim
then
is
it is
obviously
about him being a streamer. I mean,
No.
they should have a consistent stance on this, regardless of someone's public profile. Like the fact that we
Yes.
talking about him being attention seeking or throwing a charade or whatever these other personal attacks we want to throw for someone who's not here to defend himself. Like,
Well, Tim's the one that's
I mean,
attacking.
it's
Yeah,
just-
no. That's not.
it has nothing to do with it. It
Make
has
an
nothing to
observation.
fucking do with it. If he's a streamer or not, they should have a consistent policy that if you get emotional and delete your shit and you submit a support ticket, either they are willing to help you with that or they are not, and they should apply that consistently no matter who it is. I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious. Do you guys? Tim thinks they should not restore gear. Kerr, do you think they should restore gear? Not talking about
Definitely.
streamer or not.
Definitely not. Nobody. It's not even about street. It's literally nobody. If you're literally like fuck BDO shit game and you throw your gear in the trash, it's not on them to restore your gear because you made a dumbass decision in a
Yeah.
fit of rage.
They should put that
or
ticket
you just
exactly where
thought
they
you were
put their
done.
gear. They should put that ticket exactly where they put their gear.
And Moreland, what would do you want to make a stance? Like, do you think they should or should not?
I don't. Yeah, I think that it's not a big deal to report deleted gear. I also don't think it's a huge deal if they decide it's their policy that when you delete an item, you get the cap of 2, and that's the policy, and there's no exceptions. I'm fine with that as well. What's driving me crazy here is you guys are pretending like there's some conspiracy where he got special treatment because of who he is, and there's just no evidence to back that up. If you want to show me other people who are getting denied this while he's getting the pass, and like you're going to show me side by side and it's the same circumstance, then okay, that's a huge problem. But like, I just feel like everyone's getting so like, oh, well, clearly it's because he's a huge streamer and they're just trying like
Literally, it doesn't
come
have
on.
to be about him being a streamer. Do you remember back in the day when what's his name, Vanguards or whatever, he accidentally put a pre-order for like 20-30 bill or some shit on a base Bassi instead of a Tet Bassi, and they refunded him when normally they don't do that to players, and there was the outrage for that. It's more about them not having consistent, like, they don't consistently police things the same way because every like GM takes
okay,
it
so
on
where's
themselves.
the inconsistency then? Where's the person who got screwed under the same? Like, I don't know what happened with Frost. Didn't he quit like under KEKW? Wasn't that completely different people answering the
I
tickets?
mean, that's literally like when Potion was like, you could go and search LinkedIn for the business agreement with KEKW and fucking PA. Like, that's not a very good argument to defend.
I don't
your point
have
by having
I don't have
someone
the
else
burden of
find-
proof. You guys are the one putting forth the accusation
No,
of
the-
unfairness here. I don't have the
rules-
burden of proof.
The
No,
thing
no,
that
I-
they
I-
have, the thing in the game, hold on. The thing in the game that they have is if you accidentally delete gear, the last 2 things you can get back. The last 2 things. I think you should have 2 things back. The last 2 things he put in the trash can, let him have it back. Even if it expired after the 30 days. Hey, here's a consideration. You're welcome, kind of thing. Just stick to the rule. We're all assuming that he got some sort of special treatment because that is not our understanding of how the rule works. It is an exception. Also, it's additionally distasteful because what was it, a year ago when he like died to a mob on stream, reported that he died to lag, and then cackled about him getting the crystal back.
So,
and kind
again,
of abusing
personal,
that.
not
he's
necessarily-
done this shit before.
No, this
Well,
is
yeah,
that's again that's
that's
personal.
a completely different
Listen,
issue, and I'm with
there's-
you on that one. I think the crystal thing was bullshit, but I again don't think that it was because he was a streamer. I think it was because he manipulated a customer service rep over a ticketing system, and
I'm
the rep
kind of
thought,
defending what I
"Oh,
said that made you upset. I'm kind of defending that. There's a pattern here, and that's what I don't like about it.
So, all right. Well, there's 3 different.
I
There's
think
many
they
different.
probably take this on a case by case scenario, and like if there's probably a difference between someone who deleted their gear 2 years ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 2 months ago, and someone's making a judgment call here. I don't think it's that nefarious. I don't think it's a big fucking conspiracy. I don't think Delphi is going behind the scenes to hook him up because he's a streamer or any of that. If you want to show evidence that that's happening, okay, but like to just
I mean, we
immediately
literally
jump to
can't.
the
That's such a-
conspiracy.
That's such a like.
Yeah, all right,
come on,
well,
man.
like-
obviously,
Well, if you can't do that, why are you making the
because it's
accusation?
against the rules. It is not the way the game is set up. The game is set up that if the last 2 things you deleted on accident, you can get back. It doesn't say, there's not been a statement, hey, if you delete all your gear, send in a ticket. We'll send it back. That's not how it works. You delete shit, it's gone, especially after 30
There's
days.
a
By the way, it's been after
feature-
30 days.
All right,
No,
well-
there's a feature that allows you to do this automatically without contacting support. That's not the same as them saying, under no circumstances ever will we ever restore items beyond these two.
All right,
Have
so-
they said that?
One thing I want to clear up here is there's several different topics here, and I feel like we need to have a closure in a couple of them, right? Because we're talking about one fake uniform, then we're talking about streamers, and then we're talking about the topic in general, and then we're also talking about what customer service should do. So first, customer service had their policy updated. They made a public post on the website about it, and we should probably go reference that to see what their current policy is. If what they did for fake uniform doesn't line up with their current policy, then that would be a good discussion to have at that point, because we'd actually have some evidence to talk about.
It is so ordinary for MMO companies to give you back things that you have deleted. Of course, they're going to do that because they want to retain you as a player. Every MMO does this. You delete your character on WoW. You come back 6 months later. You submit a support ticket. You say, I want my character to get restored. Even if they have a policy that says they won't do that, there's going to be plenty of times where they make an exception, either because the customer service guy is human and he wants to be nice, or because they simply want to retain you as a player and their management has told them that, use your best judgment, but sometimes we make an exceptions to this. I don't know, to just jump straight to this weird malicious conspiracy is very over the top to me. Of course, MMO companies are going to try to keep players who quit the game when they come back and say, hey, I want to unquit.
I'm
Weird
making
and
the broad
malicious.
general statement in the absence of whoever it is that you should not have your shit replaced for making a stupid decision. That's just my stance.
That's sound. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah,
Regardless of whoever it is that made it, you should not have your shit.
I think we can all agree that we would like a consistent policy to be applied. It would be nice if they had something like that. And maybe that's just our own ignorance. Maybe they do have one and we just don't know. And then the other thing is the topic of if there's maybe some type of favoritism going on or fake uniform coming back to the game. And I feel like, that whole conversation topic, we can't really make any headway on that because, one, we don't have the information of the rep. We don't have the information about their policy. And I don't really feel like we can make any headway on that. I mean, it's just, at that point, it's just arguing to be arguing. And we probably should just come back and revisit when we have a little bit more evidence if we want to in the future.
No, I'll pass. I don't.
That was a
I said
terrible
what I wanted to
question,
say
Kerr.
about that. Yeah.
Dude, I literally just wanted you guys' attention or opinion on if they should repair someone's gear if they threw it away.
I think
I don't
I think
really
it was
feel
a good
strongly one way or another, but I do think the obvious answer from the company's perspective is, restore it.
Yeah.
Such a terrible precedent. I'm with Potion on that one.
Yeah, I think that it would be better if they just let you live with their consequences with that, and if you want to restart, you want to restart and stuff like that. So, because I mean, if they restore gear, then it basically encourages you to take risk blowing up all your gear, deleting it, quitting the game, and coming back. And I feel like that's just not a. I think that's
blowing up your gear and deleting your gear are two separate things. Obviously, they should never restore anyone's enhancing failures.
Yeah, I mean, but that's generally what basically happens, right? Is you quit the game and you're going to blow up all your stuff, and so then you blow it up and then you delete it because you want to quit the game, and then you come back. So, I this gives me a weird feeling about it all. I think the best thing for the game is for it just to stay deleted. I think the best thing for the company for player retention is to restore the gear, and I don't know which one is the best choice, really. It's interesting though.
I don't see how it harms the game to allow people to reclaim their trashed items. I mean, it's a base feature that already works twice a month. I don't know what harm is caused by expanding that on special occasions, but I don't really feel that strongly the other direction either. I mean, if they want to make it their policy that they never do that, it's also not a big deal to me.
I would say the only gameplay side I could see get hurt is it kind of hurts the story of your progression in the game, right? You tell all your friends, I'm quitting, I'm going to blow up my gear, I'm going to delete it if it actually succeeds, and then you just come back and then the entire story ends up being kind of like a lie, right? You kind of lied to your friends, you kind of lied to all the people that were in your community or your guild or whatever the case may be, and I feel like that hurts the social gameplay value of the game a lot, and I think that's why they should stay deleted. Now,
so I've never seen deleting gear as a permanent thing in BDO. I've known that you could submit a ticket to restore items. Obviously, I thought this was common knowledge. So anytime someone deletes their gear in BDO, I always look at that as a temporary thing. If someone really wants to quit, they sell their gear on the market. That is the actual deletion of your gear. So that's how I've always looked at it. I've always seen deleting it like the trash can is just like a temporary storage bin that you can the recycling bin on your computer where you can just click undo and put it back.
Do you think
that's
how
I've always viewed the bin in that game.
Do you think that's good for the game
real
though?
Quick, so someone actually just said something in chat that reminded me of my experience as a customer service guy at Albion. I actually had tickets, and some of these I didn't know if they were true or not, but I would get tickets from people in Albion who would say things like, my girlfriend got mad at me and deleted my character. Can you please help me? So there are circumstances where, you might, depending on what's going on, like the customer service rep might have the discretion to make an exception to what's generally the rule. And like, I don't think that's the end of the world.
No. I don't think
so do you think that's what happened, or you don't?
I don't think it matters either way.
I do think what's what happened.
Were you trying to say that you think that the customer service made a discretionary call on this?
I don't know. I don't know how strict they are with the rules of restoring gear. I've never run into any issues with people submitting support tickets and not getting their gear back. I thought that was just like a standard thing that customer service would do. And usually when they do it, they say like, hey, this is kind of obnoxious. Don't delete your gear again. We're going to give you a one-time exception. Like, I would assume that there's something like that would come along with it. If you're someone who deletes your gear every other month, probably they'll stop helping you. That would be my expectation, but I have no idea. Like, I'm not on their customer service team. I don't know how it actually plays out.
Yeah. I actually got crowns back. I deleted crowns once, and I wanted, because I was trying to put all 5 on one character, and they actually restored them active. I had free world chat for an extra week because they restored them all as the active 7-day things because they didn't know what it was.
What? But you don't think they should restore them?
I thought they were going to. I wanted them to restore them as. I was trying to transfer one character. Yeah, I wanted to have them as expired items, just as trophies. And so I didn't see any nefarity to that or anything. I hope I conjugated that right.
That feels like a double standard.
It's not. And if they didn't give it back, I would have been like, they were my extras. So I didn't delete like my only Medaya crown. I was going to move all the extra crowns that I had to the character that had the Medaya crown. So if they said no, I would have been like, all right, no, that's fair. So
what items do you think that they should be restored? Like crowns? What else?
None. Nothing. Nothing. I don't think unless it's like an accident, right? Like, how can you really accidentally delete more than 2 things in a rip? I'm sure there's a situation or scenario or something like that. But what I probably should have done is created a ticket with them and gone, hey, I want to move these expired things to one character. Is that cool? And then just go from there instead of the back end. I was kind of asking for forgiveness instead of for permission. But I mean, if you just full on very clearly delete all of your gear, start over.
Well, it did have a lot of
conversation. Your
girlfriend,
whatever. Make sure your password's not her pet name.
Kind of victim blaming on this girlfriend thing, bro.
All my I never told my wife or girlfriend or anything any passwords. I don't walk away from shit unlogged in. I know a woman scorn me. Woohoo! No, thank you.
All right, so I've asked a question. Curtis asked a question. Now I feel like both of you guys have to ask one question.
Oh God!
Tim did the Elyon, I think. So it's more that we end.
I don't want to ask anything. I want to go home. I need a hug.
I'm honestly good to end. We've had a lot of hot takes. Unless Moral has something he wants to add.
I feel like anything I ask at this point is going to be pretty fun.
No, go ahead, man. Do it. I'm not taking anything personally.
Shoot it.
I don't know. I don't have anything.
I'm sorry. I said a mean thing. I apologize.
Okay, I have a question for you guys that has nothing to do with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any new music that you've discovered in the last 6 months that's extremely good?
Yes.
Like, I find myself only listening to music that's like 5+ years old. Is there any new shit that's like super good? You have to check this out.
Yeah, I don't know if you like my taste in music though. I'm like deep into like metalcore, like really fucking heavy metalcore.
Yeah.
I found like
But
there's
so many good bands that are coming out of the ground that have like no notification at all. But like Smash, Tuna, and those guys, all they do is trade music that they find on YouTube back and forth to each other. So I've been like trying to interject myself into that to like get deeper into how they find music. And I actually want to figure out how they're finding all this stuff. But dude, I've got some fucking bangers. And even though you can't understand the lyrics until you read them, it's super good.
I've been really having a good time like going through music that is kind of like an offshoot of like modern electronic music, because computers have so many like cool sounds you can make nowadays. They don't really exist; they're just made up, right?
Beep beep boop up.
Yeah, and like they have like the little cool sine wave type sounds, and I've been trying to go back to old genres, lo-fi or trance, and seeing what the new niche genres are of those that kind of include that a little bit. And some of them are like really interesting. Like they'll try to combine like house and trance, and then they kind of meld together with some of these new like computer sounds, and it just does a really really good job. And this has been kind of fun. It's like a creative brain teaser type thing where it's like it's musical to you, but you're like, I don't understand how this is working. It's just so unique and fresh.
Above and Beyond has always kind of been on pushing for mainstream. They've been a pretty good job of pushing like electronic edges and creating some good trends. I've always been a fan of Above and Beyond.
So I've been enjoying kind of looking through some of that kind of stuff. I think like as you get older, you typically just go back to what you were listening to in like your teens or your 20s, and then that's just your favorite music for the rest of your life, just because you kind of just get stuck in your ways. So I think by nature of that, you'll probably just always find music similar to that nature to be your favorite. But I do think there's some like really cool stuff that's out there to kind of maybe pique that intellectual itch of music, maybe, and not necessarily the favorite.
Mostly been hearing trash, bro. Like Kanye dropped a new album, dog shit. Drake dropped a new album, dog shit. Bro, like, I don't know. The mainstream's fucking weird, dude. I don't really get down with that Billie Eilish or whatever. And then, dude, it's fucking what? Apparently it's Billie Eilish. My bad.
I know eyelash is better. Let's stick with eyelash.
I do think like music, movies, and video games have all kind of boiled it down to what makes the most money. What kind of like is the thing that just sticks and makes the most popular thing. So I've really been kind of, at least for music, kind of going more into the indie thing where there's like these small artists that have like 10,000 followers or something. Like there's something that's relatively small to the large scale stuff, and seeing what they do, and like usually like one or two songs in there, I'm just like, wow, that is gold right there. And it's not something I'll listen to every day, but it's been enjoyable. I'll agree on the whole mainstream music stuff. I just don't get it.
I feel like we were supposed to help Moro find some new stuff to listen to, but we didn't achieve what the question was supposed to.
Man,
achieve.
by the time you're this age, like everybody's music taste is so like personalized. I feel like it's really hard to find somebody that like you can share music with.
I don't know. I feel like my taste is fairly broad, but I find new stuff that I like occasionally. I have to slog through so much garbage to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean yeah.
Do you feel
I didn't feel like that 5 or 10 years ago, though. I felt like I could just turn on like Pandora or Spotify or Google or like any music finding algorithm, and like every other song would be at least interesting. And now I feel like it's like 1 out of 20 now instead of like 1 out of 2 or 3.
Do you use Spotify's radio? Like you can make a playlist. Okay, okay. This is what you need to do. This is the thing to get out of this. When you like your songs on Spotify, right? And then you can create a playlist of like songs, and then you go to radio, and it'll give you. So I'll do one.
Yeah,
song.
see, I did that back in the day with Spotify, and it was terrible. But I'm really hearing a lot of people now are saying it's good. So maybe I just need to give Spotify another try.
I do one trance song that I really vibe with, and then I hit radio, and then I'll find another one in that radio. I'll hit that one, hit radio. It'll have some of the same songs, but it'll have new songs. And like that's basically the music of my stream. Is just this. It's based upon this one trance song that I'm really vibing with, and it keeps going, and it helps you find like heavy metal and classics and all that kind of stuff. I have found some amazing live recordings of like early blues like 1960s jazz and like some of my favorite musicians through Spotify.
Yeah, they must have
and the
made their
radio.
algorithm way better then. Because
Oh,
back
it's
when I
so
used
good.
it was like, they would give me like the most generic like top 40s bullshit that was like slightly adjacent to what I was looking for, and it just wasn't good at all.
Yeah,
They'll
that's
even
how I
like
found it.
curate you like weekly playlists or like monthly
Mhm.
playlists and stuff. That's like stuff that's similar to what you typically listen to. It's pretty good, honestly, nowadays.
Yep, it's worth the $9.
That's how I made my my playlist originally for my stream. Is I just had one song that I really liked. I couldn't find anything else like it, and I listened to like a radio for it, and just listened to 100 songs, found like 3 more, and then listened to those radio stations, then found like another 3 more, and like I just made a playlist.
I
Like
made a
200
radio
songs.
station off of DMCA free music, and 99% of the music that it suggests is DMCA free off of that. I get like no red bars on my VODs when I play. I've got like 7 playlists of just like Spotify picked DMCA stuff.
Yep.
And it's not even like a thing it's supposed to do. It just happened.
Do you guys think that like every generation is like that though? Like you think that the stuff that or that came before is kind of better, or during your childhood was like better than now?
No, I don't think the
so?
music, the metal I'm listening to now can't even Limp Bizkit, Korn. Okay, old Korn was hit different, right? There's some bands that just really hit a vibe. The timing was right. Nirvana in your like, there's a couple of albums that are just really stand out. Even Foo Fighters they were timely and they were really there. You know what I mean? And it's hard to replicate that, but musically, the random shit that I find is so much better than Godsmack Faceless or any of the other stuff that was like mainstream or out there as far as metal. So the genre that I really identified with as a teenager that I still really like, I'm finding, and I've done a lot of music in my life. I'm finding offshoots, right? And getting into these deeper kind of niche genres. And I'm like, okay, that's not for me. That's a little too thrash. This is great. I love the lows that, this metalcore does, or this screamcore, or whatever it is. And so it's all these little branches I get to go into instead of just like what MTV puts out, being able to find really music that really speaks to you in the most like selfish way, instead of just, oh, you like metal? Well, I guess you listen to Korn and Godsmack and Metallica. Yeah, brother. I mean, that's what it used to be. Now I'm listening to Draco US, and I just, my neighbors hate me.
Yep, I do think it's a lot better for like discoverability of like these like small artists and stuff like that. For sure. I like I think it's much better anyway.
Good question. I'll come up with a wholesome ending question for next week, but I don't have one off the top of my head, and I don't want to just spit out fodder.
Well, you want to wrap it up then?
That was a good way to end this kind of tenuous podcast.
Roller coaster.
I love all of you guys, by the way, except for Potion when he talks about PvP. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Toxic.
That was episode 60.
He blacked his camera out, bro.
He's taking his. Never mind. That was episode 60 of Nerds and Words. I got the distinct pleasure of kind of being your host, Tim Allen 1337. Before we call this, I like to roll out the red carpet for you guys. And if you got something special or interesting going on your channel, or you just want to take 5 seconds to plug yourself, Kerr, go ahead. What do you got going on this week, man?
You're nothing special. Just another week of getting back into a groove, a schedule with like work and school and shit.
Potion, come back. Moreland, what about you, man? What are you up to this week?
Just a whole bunch of new worlds. I'm going to try to crystallize some really good like week 1 guides for the game before launch. And then I guess, I don't know how soon this is going to be. There's a big Valheim update that's coming out pretty soon that we're going to be getting back into, and then D2 Resurrected after that. So we have a lot of stuff leading up to New World, but then I'm hoping to put out some pretty good New World content as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback with you on the Valheim and the D2, I think, while I wait for New World. That sounds like a good idea. I was gonna go back to 14, but Potion, what are you doing this week, man?
I plan on doing lots of PvP.
Gonna get into a Siege Guild. I hear Tronation needs one more.
Hey, Frosty
lawn.
did offer to let you merc for his guild tomorrow.
That would be a good idea.
Playing BDO, gross. I'm on PvP
True.
in New World. All right, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, we probably need a PvP like right now.
But yeah, that's
I
gonna
gotta
be
be
about
stream-
it. So maybe some YouTube videos and probably some streaming.
How many
Maybe.
subs is Lotion Shop up to?
It's almost at the 400. I feel like
Okay.
at the pace it's going, it will pass my main channel within the
Damn.
year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna stream the shit out of New World. I'll keep streaming after New World. Probably not to the absolutely not as vigorously as I am now. I'm gonna stream as long as I'm awake tonight. As soon as I wake up and work out tomorrow, I'll stream again, and then the same for Sunday. And I'll stream as late as I possibly can each night. I've got nothing going on in my life outside of that for this weekend. And then whenever the Valheim update drops, I'll play that with you guys. And that's what I got going on. I do want to say, and I want to thank everybody, specifically everybody that plays New World with us. I want to thank you guys and everybody who's watching me for coming back. And I got a lot of support for the 2 weeks I took off, and that actually means a lot to me. So I do really appreciate it. I missed you guys. You all are really important to me, or else I would have never come back. Everybody that can hear me. So thank you. There was a wild episode. And we'll be back next week, Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 12 Pacific, live on Moreland TV, Kerr's channel, or Tim Allen 1 through 7. You can catch us recorded on Spotify, Nerds and Words, or Potion Shop's YouTube. Thank you guys. Have an excellent week. Stay safe,